primary or against. I know you're.
Oh yes, 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 yes. Yeah, we're gonna do that. We're gonna do that right away. And yeah. All right, we ready? Everybody ready? Anybody need water? Any have cold water before we get started?
Yeah, I do. Only for voters.
Mike?
Read the label.
John?
Present.
All right, is everybody ready? Are we ready in the other room there?
Yeah, all set.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Medford City Council, 27th regular meeting, August 15th, 2017. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Counsel Delarusso.
Present.
Counsel Falco.
Present.
Counsel Knight.
Present.
Counsel Long Kern.
Present.
Vice President Marks.
Present.
Counsel Scarpelli.
Present.
President Caviola.
Present. Please rise and salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I want to welcome everyone this evening to the Medford High School Media Center, and I want to let everyone know that this meeting is going out live. So I welcome everyone at home, and welcome to the new Media Center.
Mr. President, motion to suspend the rules to take a paper out of order.
Motion by Councilor Knight to suspend the rules, seconded by Councilor Delarusso. All those in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Councilor Knight, what are you taking out of order?
We'd like to take the Sisters for Ovarian Cancer out of order, Mr. President, if that's
Sisters for
possible.
Ovarian Cancer. 1 second, let me find it here. Okay. 17605, petition by Carol Powers, 20 Walter Street, Medford, Mass. Member of the Sisters Against Ovarian Cancer, to address State Council and to hang teal bows in Medford in a campaign to raise awareness to the signs of ovarian cancer. Carol is not here this evening,
Carol's not here, so,
and if you could please have a seat there. And name and address for the record, please.
Judy Budney, 97 Mitchell Ave.
Thank you.
So I belong to an organization, Sisters Against Ovarian Cancer, and our main purpose is to raise awareness and funds, much-needed funds, for ovarian cancer research. So as part of the awareness program, in the past few years, we've taken part in a program called Turn the Town Teal, which for the whole month of September, which is Ovarian Cancer Awareness Month, we hang teal bows around the city for the whole month to raise awareness for this disease. And at the end of September, we take the bows down.
Thank you.
So we'd like to ask permission to continue to do that this year.
You have a great organization, and I'm proud to be a supporter of your organization.
Move approval, Mr. President.
Motion by
Seconded.
Councilor Knight to approval, seconded by Councilor Longo Kern. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you, and
Thank you.
we look forward to seeing your ribbons around the square.
Okay, I do have a form that needs to be signed by someone from the city.
That's at me?
Is it a check?
No, but we're willing to take any
Mayor,
information.
town official, I guess that's me.
We have a website too.
Actually, Judy, if you could speak into the mic, let people know where they can
Yeah.
send in donations.
We have a website, sistersagainstok.org, and you can go onto our website. There's a lot of useful information, and we have our annual walk, our 10th year now. It's going to be held on Saturday, September 9th. It starts at the Stone Zoo, and it's a 5-mile walk around Spot Pond to raise money. And the funds that we do raise are donated to the Koch Institute at Massachusetts Institute of Technology. And they're doing some great research there.
You also have a fundraising night also, correct?
We do, that takes place in the spring.
Okay.
We had that already in May of this year. And to date, we're just a small organization, but we have raised over $225,000 for ovarian cancer research.
Outstanding. Thank you.
President, motion to return to regular order business.
Motion by Council Del Russo to return to regular business. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. will be a public hearing, 17590. A public hearing will be held by the Medford City Council in the Community Access Studio at Medford High School, 489 Winthrop Street, Medford, Mass, on Tuesday evening, August 15, 2017, at 7 p.m. on a petition from Medford Associates, LLC, Park Plaza, Boston, Mass. 02116, for a special permit to amend the hours in accordance with Medford zoning ordinance, Chapter 94, Section 94-145, to operate extended hours at 3850 Mystic Valley Parkway, Meadow Glen Mall, Medford, Mass. Site being located in an Industrial 1 zoning district as follows. Extended hours being requested Monday through Sunday, 7 days a week, 6 a.m., 7 a.m. through 11 p.m. to 12 a.m. Petition may be seen in the office of the city clerk, Medford City Hall. The city of Medford is an EEO/AA/504 employer. For information and accommodations and aids, please contact the city clerk, 393-2425. And this has been advertised in the daily item on August 1st and August 8th. Where this is a public hearing. Name and address for the record, please.
Brian Dugdale from Gouldsmith Stores, 400 Atlantic Avenue in Boston, Massachusetts.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. With this said, are you here to speak in favor?
We are here to speak in favor of representing Medford Associates, which is the
So you're speaking in
LLC
favor?
in favor of
Thank you.
the petition, and we are requesting a continuance of
Thank
this
you.
hearing until September 19th.
Thank you. Do we have to continue with, is there anyone else here speaking in favor of this petition? Hearing and seeing none, I motion that part of the hearing closed. Is there anyone here in opposition to this hearing? Hearing and seeing none, I motion that part of the hearing be closed. Councilor Longo Crane.
Thank you, President Carviello. I know you're going to extend till September meeting, but I think we did get an email with regards to the towers that are behind the property and the loading times. So maybe before then, you can do some research and see what times the trucks are going to be delivering and unloading, just so even if we do want to extend your permit, we can assure the residents that live in those buildings that even though the hours of operations may be 6 a.m. in the morning or 11 p.m. at night, I think it was 12 in the morning, that we know that the deliveries will not be at that time, so they will still have peace and enjoyment of their properties.
Thank you, Counselor, and that's something we'd like to address, and that's one of the reasons we're extending through until September, so we can hear, better understand the concerns of our neighbors. We want to be good neighbors and address those concerns at the open public hearing.
Yeah, and I think he said that they are planning a meeting with the condo association.
Perfect.
To address them in person and addressing their needs. Do we have a motion to table this?
So, Mr. President, just if I can ask a question.
Vice President Marks.
Just, what are the hours of operation of your other Wegmans stores around the area?
I'm Paulson Carter with New England Development, representing Medford Associates. They're generally 6 a.m. to either 11 p.m. or 12 p.m. There are multiple locations, none in Massachusetts that are 24 hours, but the several that New England Development's been involved with in Wegmans have all been 6 a.m. to either 11 p.m. or 12 p.m. or midnight, I should say.
So you don't anticipate any plans to come back at a future date to, if you were to be given the midnight, to be looking for 1, 2, or 3 in the morning?
We don't expect to be returning for that, no.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to table this? The motion by Councilor Lundgren to table this hearing. All those in favor? Motion passes. We'll see you, next hearing. Thank you.
19th. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Okay.
Over, yeah. Just the public comment and a vote.
17591. Location of poles, attachment fixtures, and underground conduits, Medford, Mass. You are hereby notified that the order of the Medford City Council public hearing will be given at the Community Access Studio, Medford High, 489 Winthrop Street, Medford, Mass, on Tuesday, August 15th, on a petition by Comcast Cable Communications Management, LLC, for permission to construct a line for such telecommunication under the public way or
Mr.
ways
President,
here.
motion to waive the reading and have a representative from the petitioner have a brief synopsis of.
On the motion by Counselor Knight, seconded by Counselor Marks. All those in favor?
Aye.
Name and address of the record, please.
Good evening, Dave Llewellyn, Comcast, Woburn, Massachusetts. This petition, Washington Street, will be starting at existing utility pole 5507, excavating in the sidewalk to place 1 4-inch PVC conduit, 37 feet plus or minus to existing telephone manhole located in the sidewalk.
Thank you. Well, this is a public hearing. Do we have anyone here to speak in favor of this? Would that be yourself?
Yes.
Is there anyone else in favor of this? Hearing and seeing none, I motion that part of the meeting closed. Is there anyone that is against this? Anyone not in favor? Hearing and seeing none, I motion that part of the hearing closed.
President,
Councilor Del Russo.
if I could, through the chair, ask the petitioner, what is the purpose of this? Is there a new, why do you have to do this? Is there a new building?
We're tying into the existing Verizon manhole that ties into the conduit system that we're already into to provide service to 53 Riverside Ave, which is the Middlesex Bank.
Very good. Mr. President.
Councilor Falco.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a couple of quick questions. Just get a little bit more background on this. How long will this project take?
Couple days,
A couple of days?
weather
And-
permitting.
Okay, and do you know when it's going to begin?
As soon as this is granted, we'll have the contractor go in and pull the street opening permit.
And do you know how many sidewalk panels are impacted? Just for
think there was
so the
like-
residents in the neighborhood have some sort of idea as
I think there
to.
was maybe 37 feet. I think there was maybe 5 panels, give or take a couple.
And will there be any impact to with regard to traffic in the neighborhood?
I would say no. I mean, I don't know if there's a lot of, pedestrian traffic in the sidewalk there, but they can, put some traffic control signs there to block the sidewalk and divert them around and, basically pretty much, almost a day, two's work for the most part, once they excavate it all out. And then the biggest part of it will be going back and replacing the concrete. That's what's gonna take the time.
Okay.
Mr. President?
Okay, thank you.
So it's
Councilor Knight.
strictly sidewalk work? No?
Yeah,
street
nothing
work
in
at
the
all?
street.
And what materials do you use to replace the sidewalk panels? The same existing?
Same,
style
yes,
concrete?
it's concrete.
I have no-
Councilor Scott Pelley.
I think that, echo Councilor Knight's, one of the biggest concerns we've had in this council the last couple of years, 2 years that we've been on, is that whenever there's utility company that comes in, the way they found the street and sidewalks in a better condition, that if same or if not better condition than it was left, because we have a huge issue with contractors coming in, representing the utilities, and then leaving subpar work behind, and then the city is left, and the constituents are left holding the bag. So I think that it's very important that piece is done. I think that'll be one discussion with the city's engineer, making sure that comes to fruition.
Councilor Knight.
Mr. President, also looks here that the petitioner has agreed to remove an asphalt patch that's been put around another existing utility pole as part of mitigation to help fill those gaps with concrete to keep it consistent with the rest of the sidewalk. So I have no problem with this petition, Mr. President. I move for approval.
Second.
Motion by Councilor Knight to approval, seconded by Councilor Scott Pelley. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
17-592, location of poles, attachments of fixtures in underground conduits. Do I
Mr.
hear-
President, motion to waive the reading and have a representative from the petitioner give us a brief synopsis of the project.
That would be, let me see, Sienna Engineering Group? Name and address for the record, please.
With Sienna Engineering Group, my name is John Kennedy. We're at 50 Mall Road, in Burlington, Mass. Sure. So this is,
Are you in favor of this?
I am in favor of this.
Do we have anyone else in favor of this project? Hearing and seeing none, I close that part of the hearing. Is there anyone here that wishes to speak against this project? Hearing and seeing none, I motion that part of the hearing closed. Continue.
Okay, so this is a conduit build, I guess starting on Granville Avenue, at the railroad right-of-way. We're replacing a handhole, and we're constructing 200 feet of conduit to a manhole location at the location of Winchester Street and Granville Avenue. Then we're constructing another 722 feet to another structure, a manhole structure. And then from that, we'd go out to a Verizon manhole that's actually in the city of Somerville.
Council Del Russo.
I have a lot of questions. Why?
So on Broadway, there's a bridge that crosses it over the railway.
Yes.
And in order for them to replace that bridge for the Green Line Extension project, we have to relocate our cable, which is running right down the right-of-way. And the way to do that is to get it up into the Verizon structure and then take it from the Verizon structure down Winchester, down Granville, and get it back onto the railway beyond the bridge where they're doing the construction.
Tell us about the type of conduit that you're gonna be building. Is it a contained concrete tunnel? Is it a?
It's typical construction with two 4-inch conduits encased in concrete, 48 inches of depth down, and obviously we're going to be looking to mitigate intersecting with anything else that might be in the roadway.
And are you gonna be digging in the road and the sidewalks?
All on the road.
And what kind of wiring is this?
So what would go back, what we're relocating is a fiber optic cable for AT&T.
Okay. All right.
Council Falco.
I'm
I'm
not
sorry. I
through, Mr.
apologize. I
President.
apologize.
Thank you. The people on Winchester Street have had the heck beaten out of them for the past 5 years, and they've been shanghaied every step of the way. The businesses on Boston Avenue with relation to construction tied into the Green Line and some related developments that are gonna capitalize off of the Green Line have suffered tremendously. On Winchester Street, on the other end from where you're digging, down towards Harvard Street, residents were disrupted for 2 years with work that was done to accommodate the widening of the Harvard Street Bridge and dealing with a lot of the issues there, some of which were promised to be addressed and never were. I speak of drainage issues in that area. So beneath the Harvard Street Bridge still floods. St. Clement's School, though it's in a transition, still takes on sewage. An elementary school takes on sewage. Now, I'm not saying that you're the cause of this. What I'm saying is that the people who I represent are gonna now be faced with another in a series of disruptive construction projects that's gonna challenge their egress in and off of their properties, is gonna tie up traffic in a cut-through street that gets people between Harvard Street and Broadway and avoids using the ridiculous Powder House Circle, which has traffic patterns and timing there that is contrary to reason. And so what are you folks gonna do for the people of Medford on these streets who've had to put up with this over the several years? And I'm not trying to put you on the spot and make you feel uncomfortable, but the fact of the matter is these people are hurting.
Yeah.
And they need to be assured in very concrete ways on how are they gonna be treated? How are they gonna be communicated with? Is just a silly flyer gonna be stuck under their doors? Are they gonna have a normal person who's gonna talk to them and listen to them? Or are they just gonna be besieged with emails that get put into their spam box?
No, we'll definitely have a representative on site while we're doing this dig to speak to those other items. This
Yeah,
is not
it's
a
all related,
project that's
yeah.
not even on that kind of scale. This is a simple 2 4-inch conduit duct rewrite. So it's a typical trench that you might see in the roadway happening for gas, for instance, or anybody else.
Yeah.
And we're not going to be impacting in that way. We definitely will impact traffic. We have traffic plans that we submitted to your engineering department, and we will look to make it work with both the police department and setting up traffic plans appropriately. And obviously, we'll listen to your constituency in the area while we're working.
So will there be someone on site who's gonna be available and consistent to just help these people?
Absolutely.
Who really feel beat up at this point.
Absolutely. Sienna will definitely have somebody on site while the contractors are working.
And who is Sienna?
Sienna's an engineering firm, and we're representing AT&T. So basically, we will work with a contractor that will be on site.
Good. Thank you, Mr. President.
Council Falco.
Thank you, Mr. President. It does some of the similar questions, I guess, but, as far as the length of time this project's going to take, and when do you think this will begin? Just vicinity of, just so if anyone here
Yeah,
was
sure.
watching at home tonight.
So what we're trying to do is get this done before the December is our goal. Before the moratorium, we'd like to get it done. We're still working out a grant allocation as well in Somerville, and as soon as we get that, we're gonna get underway. So we're in the process of putting all the pieces together. We'd like to get started as soon as possible, and we're looking at, depending on how things go and what the impact is in terms of traffic, it would be 4 to 6 weeks, I would think. But that's the outside. I can't say exactly. It depends on how long it takes us to get underway, and if we run into issues in terms of traffic, or if you have special events or any of those things that might be impacted. I don't know if there are road races scheduled for the next couple of weeks. When we could get out there and get it done.
And as far as so would the work hours be just your normal 9 to 5, or?
Yeah, it would be. And if we were gonna do anything, or if we were looking to get some relief on that, we would obviously come to the city and ask if we could do that.
And as far as the impact to the neighbors that live in that neighborhood, are we talking about they're not gonna have access to their driveways? What will be the impact, and how will they be notified?
I think it would be minimal. Obviously, where we're working, it may take a day for us to get out of the way of a driveway, for instance, but we'll be looking to keep pedestrian traffic moving at all times, keep roadways open as much as we can, and keep driveways open as much as possible. So.
Okay. So will you be, sending a notice to the neighbors? I mean, just to let them know their driveway could possibly be not accessible, during these dates, or?
We certainly could do something like that if we needed to. Yeah.
I mean, I would think, I think it's a good idea, just to let them know, that this project's going to happen, and, just so they're informed. I mean, because I think the worst thing is when there's no communication, that's when the phones start ringing. That, what, I knew nothing about this, the person that might live in the street might not know nothing about, or anything about this project, or they might have minimal information, and then all of a sudden they can't get into their driveway, and they're calling us for answers. So I think reaching out to the community, or to those streets that are impacted, and those neighbors that are impacted, it's definitely something that I would recommend.
Yeah, and I believe we did send out a listing, a mailing already.
Okay, good.
About his list mailing already, but, once we get started, we could do that again. And I know one of the stipulations was that we get together and sit down before we get started, and we will have a schedule at that time. We can tell you what we think it's gonna take us to get it done.
Great, thank you. And as far as do you foresee any road closures at all?
The way that we have our traffic plan set up right now, there are no road closures, so we don't anticipate that there would be actual road closures.
Okay, I'm just concerned because I think this, if I'm reading this map correctly, this leads out to Broadway, right?
It does, yeah.
So I'm just concerned that if you're closing a road in Somerville, and the residents in Medford don't know anything about it, there's a
Right.
disconnect there. So if there are any road
Traffic
closures,
plans, right, yeah.
I would think that, if we could just make sure that the residents know, just because the worst thing is when something in Somerville is impacting them and they don't know anything about it, that's something that we should keep take into account.
Yeah, absolutely. If you look at the traffic plan, I don't think we're not planning on closing any roads, and we obviously would like to try to keep traffic moving in all directions.
Okay.
And, setting up the proper traffic plan, and also getting some help from both police departments to make sure that we can keep traffic moving. That's the goal.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sure, thank you, Mr. President.
Councilman McCurran.
Actually, I think my questions have been asked and answered. Thank you.
Councilor Knight.
This is, it looks like, 948 feet of trench work that you want to do?
I think it's about almost 1,100 feet.
Almost 1,100 feet.
Yeah.
And you said something at the beginning of your presentation. You said this is going to be, common trench work like you see all around the city. And
Yeah.
we've had a big problem in this city about trench
Sure.
work that's being performed by public utilities in the community. Just last month, we had a committee of the whole meeting with the city engineer, and we asked a series of questions to the city solicitor as to whether or not we could place a moratorium on trench work. One of the big problems isn't necessarily you guys getting in there and doing the work that you need to do, because you need to get the work done. It's never coming back and fixing it to the standard that we want to see it fixed. And that's become a very big problem in our community. We're seeing a number of streets in residential neighborhoods and in main roads alike that are getting torn up and torn apart. I mean, if you look at tonight's agenda, for example, you have 1,100 feet, we got 115 feet coming up after that, and we're looking at 2,000 feet of trench work that we're gonna be putting through the city. You know what I mean? There's applications for 2,000 feet of trench work in the city, and we have some questions that are pending right now before our city solicitor that I think I'd feel a little bit more comfortable getting an answer to before I move forward in supporting this paper. 1,000 feet's a lot of stretch of land. It's 10 football fields. Councilor Della Russo is absolutely right. That neighborhood has been beat on for the last 3-4 years between, the reversals of Winchester Street and the direction that it's going in, the impact that the expansions of the Harvard Street Bridge have had, the discussion about eminent domain land takings coming up in the near future to, again, accommodate the extension of the Green Line, which I think is going to be a benefit to our community. Don't get me wrong. I think the Green Line extension is a good thing for us here in Medford. But in the meantime, we have residents that really need to maintain a strong quality of life, and that hasn't happened in that neighborhood. So this evening, I'm having a very difficult time supporting this paper, Mr. President, if we don't have the answers that are going to come back from the city solicitor based on the committee of the whole that we had. And the committee of the whole meeting that we had was exclusively focused on trench management and the issuing of permits to public utilities and what they do to our streets, and whether or not they come back, and whether or not there's a schedule for them to come back, and whether or not we can limit the number of permits that are issued in a quarter or a year, so that we can better manage the job and better oversee the job that's being done. Because I think that the focus is more on the next special permit than it is on coming back and completing the work from the last special permit that you got. Now, I haven't had the opportunity of working with Sienna, and I'm not sure what Sienna's reputation is or anything like that. I'm sure you guys are great. You're working for AT&T, which is a multinational company, a $1 billion company, so I'm sure you guys do a great job. But we need to do some housekeeping here, in my opinion, before I feel comfortable supporting this paper, and I'm not going to be able to support it this evening, Mr. President, for the reasons that we've asked a series of questions to our city solicitor through the administration, asking for some input and some feedback as to what we can do to better manage the trench work that's being done in our community, because it's killing our streets, it's killing our neighborhoods, and the residents have spoken out against it. In this particular street, in this particular neighborhood, they've been under the thumb of construction for the better part of 3 years, and and it's not going to stop.
It is.
And the work needs to get done. I understand the work needs to get done.
Unfortunately, we're on a schedule here where we're getting forced to relocate because we're in the way of the abutment that's going to go in. And this is the way to get around that so that they can do that construction work. That's what's pushing us to
I understand
get this work
that. I understand
done.
that it's a cause and effect situation, I guess we call it.
Well, we're on the right of way, and we happen to be on the right of way in the wrong spot. We're at the abutment where the bridge needs to be replaced, and this is the way to get around that so that they can move forward with their construction in December.
And this alternative here that's being presented, I would assume would be the least costly alternative to the provider, right?
I don't know if it would be the least costly, but it's certainly.
Is there another way you can do it? We don't have to dig 1,000 feet in one of our city streets, I guess is the question.
I don't think that there's another way that we could do that. I don't know that we could get our cable out of the way of the construction. You might be able to speak to that a little bit better than I could, but.
Derek Anderson with Arup, design professional representing MBTA, 16 Myrtle Street in Medford. So I understand some of the trenching problems on a personal level. But to why I'm here, the design team has looked at multiple different ways to keep the relocation of this particular duct bank within the MBTA right away under the bridge. There is not a way that we have seen where we're able to avoid any disruption to the public streets in the area. The Boston Ave or Winchester. Winchester seems to be the best possible alignment for getting in and out quickly. We've looked at, to give some sense, Broadway Bridge, there's abutments coming down on either side, a new track, there's just no space between the abutments and the track to put that in.
There's barely any space between US Travel World and, from what they've done over there, it's about this far away from the building, so I understand what you're up against.
We have absolutely looked to try to avoid the disruption in this area, and there isn't another way without getting into the roads.
Into our roads? Or can you go underneath the rail bed? Can you go through Somerville?
One way or another, it's gotta come up onto the roads. And really Winchester is.
And what do these conduits service? Were they home telephones? Are they internet IP bandwidth? Do they provide?
Yeah, it's AT&T's core network, and it's carrying all kinds of traffic. That is not only local, but it goes all over the place, so there's traffic. This particular cable has quite a bit of traffic on it that can't be rerouted, unfortunately. And the right-of-way was the place where they traditionally put a lot of network when as a way to mitigate getting into town and city streets.
Right.
And unfortunately, where it is right now, we don't have the ability to get it out of his way while he builds the bridge. And this is a way to work it out. And we are taking advantage of some structures that are already there, in going through, coming out of the
Right,
horizon
right.
manhole, so.
Well, I appreciate you for answering my questions. I don't think my position's moved much off of Mr. President with the answers from the solicitor's office.
Thank you.
But I do
Council
thank
Scott
you.
Belli.
I understand where you're coming from.
I appreciate coming out tonight. I think that's one of the biggest things that we've talked about in this council, and I'm sorry that you're the representative of this feedback, but until we make a stand and really get the feedback back from the city solicitor and all of the utility companies that have been using our streets as trenches and then walking away and leaving our streets a mess. I think that with that and a plan in place for those neighbors, because those neighbors, again, I echo the remarks of my colleagues that they've been impacted so negatively, and their just daily lifestyles, and to compound that with more construction and road work without a comprehensive plan that they are familiar with from beginning to end, I think would be negligent in my part as a city council representing those people to not make sure that those concerns are not just echoed, not just supported by yourself, but a plan that would show us and what we can do. So I too would like to table this until we get more information from our city solicitor and what we've asked for in the past for our utilities to make sure that what's being done on our roads, that the utilities are being held accountable for what they're leaving there, so.
Yeah, we'd certainly work with you guys on whatever you needed to be, comfortable with our construction practice. And anything we'd need to do to help communicate with the neighbors, so we would, all the people that are impacted, we'd certainly be willing to do that.
And again, I apologize that, you could be the one situation where it would leave the street impeccable, but when you have 2-foot swaths being cut and then you see them dip and nobody comes back to fix them, and then again, someone comes in and builds a 4-foot swath path and then nobody comes back, and this is what we're hearing over and over again from
Yeah, I understand.
So, and this
I
is
didn't
where
know
it's
if-
been very frustrating for us, so thank you for your time, we appreciate it.
Vice President Marks.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think some of the frustration you're hearing is regarding the number of projects that this city has gone through over the last couple of years. Eversource right now will be trenching 2 miles of some of our major thoroughfares in the next several months, which is going to be a big disruption to traffic and residents in this community. My question to you is, we hear all too often when we ask, when a trench is dug, and we all know after, even with best intentions, it usually sinks after a period of time. And we've asked the city solicitor why we can't request that when you're digging a trench, that you not only just pave the trench, but you do a curb-to-curb restoration. And we're being told that we can't request that. And I believe it has something to do with state law, correct me if I'm wrong, but we can't request a curb-to-curb repaving. And in my opinion, if I allowed you to dig up some of my driveway, to put something under my driveway, I wouldn't request that you just patch a little piece of my driveway, because I know what's gonna happen in 6 months from now. My driveway's gonna be a mess. And the same thing applies to our streets. So that's the first thing I think we have to look at, why we can't request a curb-to-curb. Was a curb-to-curb requested in this particular case?
It was not requested in this particular case. If we had something that was wrong with our patch, for instance, we certainly would want to try to restore the patch.
So if the city did request the curb-to-curb, would you?
that's something that I would have to bring back to see if that's something that would be an option. That would certainly be quite a big impact to the project. But maybe, I don't know if it's something that we could do. I couldn't answer that question tonight, but it would be a bigger impact overall to the neighborhood as well. Understand that if we did have to do a full restoration for the entire trench of the trench line, that we would be looking at a pretty big impact.
Impact regarding what?
For the neighbors and everybody. The construction project would be bigger than it would be if.
Right, but the outcome would be much
The outcome
more
would be-
beneficial
Sure,
than
sure.
residents who call us up in 6 months from now saying, every truck that goes by their house shakes their house because it's such a dip. You know, we hear it over and over again.
Right.
So I can appreciate the fact that.
No, I understand, but the roads are all over, all over the state. There's construction work going on, and it's frustrating for everybody at times, and patches to resettle, and there's no question about it that happens. I don't know that I can say that I'd be able to do a full restoration this evening, but I could certainly inquire about it.
We don't meet again until September.
Third week in September.
Yeah, and my concern is that if we don't,
We're not meeting till like the third week in September. so-
Right, and that's my concern is that,
Right.
with the project, with the goals that they have for the bridge, that we're running out of time to get this project done.
Well, I, as one member of the council, I'd hate to hold up this project. I understand that you're doing the project based on what work needs to be done.
Right.
I would have no problem if you would be able to give us a commitment tonight about curb-to-curb restoration. That way, I think it'd be an easier sell to the neighborhood, knowing that this work is taking place, but the ultimate outcome will be a brand-new area, street from the whole length. We go through projects like the Eversource project I mentioned, 2
Sure,
miles.
yeah.
It has zero benefit to this community. Zero.
That's
I realize we all have to live together.
That's really unfortunate,
as good
yeah.
neighbors with other communities.
Right.
It has zero benefit to our community.
It's just a
And it's gonna have
transmission line,
1,000% disruption to our community. So those are the type
Yeah,
of
it's
things I
very
think we're struggling
difficult.
with.
Yeah, I understand.
I'd be supportive tonight if you would give a commitment. You can get on your phone, give a commitment
Is
for
that-
curb-to-curb restoration.
Is that something that I could come back in, if I could get a few minutes to see what I
If the members
can
feel
do?
the same, I feel that way. I think that would be a win for our community if we were able to repave the entire area.
Thank you. Councilor Del Russo.
Mr. President, I wouldn't be so strict as to require that. I'd certainly invite it. I am intimately aware that that's the neighborhood I live in. I know what my neighbors have been going through, and I've been working on this as the city's liaison on one of the city's liaisons on this Green Line extension project for 12 years, 14 years, something like that. And they're finally digging, they're finally going, and we want to get it done. People want to see it done. And so I wouldn't want to be part of impeding construction. But, and I can only imagine that Winthrop Street will be dug up again. And they'll certainly, our neighbors up there will be dealing with the ambient noise of ongoing construction for the next several years with the construction of the station, the rail bed, and then also the continued presence of the lower line moving 18, 27 feet closer to their homes, and then the squeaks and the clickety-clacks of the Green Line streetcars. So that being said, I'd like to see curb-to-curb restoration of the street, but I also know that that might involve its own inconveniences to the people. But my concern was chiefly on their having avenues of communication and a way to get assurances that the concerns are going to be met. But I'll gladly yield to my dear colleagues and support that, but I certainly don't want to, I don't see a need to table this tonight, nor do I see a need to withhold it. and whole. So I'd like to move on it decisively tonight. Thank you, Mr. President.
Councilor Knight.
It's probably a better question for the MBTA than it is for Sienna, but based upon your plans and your construction guidelines and so forth, do you see a need to do any more underground work on Winchester or Granville before the completion of the Green Line extension?
As part of this project, we're not anticipating utility work on Winchester or Granville.
Because part of the concern would be if we did go curb to curb, then that would put in effect the moratorium for digging. So if we required to go curb to curb and to pave the whole entire street, then we could say that they can't dig for 5 years.
Are there other plans too for other utilities to work through that area? I don't know the answer to
That's
that
why
question.
it's better for the T than you, I think.
Yeah.
To see if that's.
You know, if we could do it.
They did the water and gas. That was 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
Councilor Longo Kern.
Thank you, President Carviallo. I see everybody's frustration, and we've had a number of committee of the whole meetings to try to remedy it, and we are awaiting answers. Curb to curb will be great, but for me, what I keep bringing up in the last several years that this has been a real problem is the fact that we don't have anybody from the city to review the trench work 6 months from now, a year from now. So I mean, I'd be amenable as long as we have a condition on there that our engineer or somebody from the administration does a walkthrough with somebody from your company 9 months from now or a year from now, and if there is sinkage, that it be fixed. I think that might be another option.
Councilor Scott Pelley.
I think everybody touched some great points. I think, again, the more detailed agenda for our constituents and those neighbors that are going to be affected, I think would have to be something that's a must.
Yeah, that we definitely are interested in that, and I did talk to the city engineer, and that was one of the points that she brought up, is that we did have to meet before we got started. We were going to have a construction kickoff, and I think we could address some of those concerns with the neighborhood, and I've actually been given the okay to do curb to curb if you guys would like us to do the curb to curb. So,
In the petition, it says AT&T shall provide a full-time resident engineer approved by the city who will monitor the work on the city's behalf. AT&T will provide detailed scheduled weekly updates, so it is in our contract somewhat. Councilor Knight.
So you just said that you've gotten the authority to
I
go
have.
curb to
I've
curb?
gotten the approval to do
Well, let's
curb to curb.
require
If you
it.
guys would like to do it.
Okay.
Can I elaborate on my response?
Please.
As you know, this is a design build, so when I say that we're not anticipating any work there, I can't say that there won't be any work because I don't know what the design builder is going to propose, but we're not anticipating work there.
I anticipated.
And the other question I have was, you're having a pre-construction meeting, obviously, with our engineering department.
Absolutely,
We haven't had it already.
absolutely.
Would you be willing to have a pre-construction meeting at maybe the South Medford Fire Station with the same people that are the abutters that are on your abutter list?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Why
and,
not? We certainly want to keep everybody happy. We're interested in having good neighbors and keeping everybody as happy as we can. We are going to be constructing. We are going to be impacting traffic. That's unavoidable. But we're interested in
1,000
getting the
feet.
project done as quickly as possible with the least amount of disruption. So.
Mr. President, I think we're making good progress tonight. A curb-to-curb solution is something that.
So we are in agreement that you are going to do curb to curb.
Yeah, we're in
Okay.
agreement.
And
As long as we're in
so
agreement on that.
we'll add that as a condition.
If you could put that as a condition, Mr. Clerk.
And just another condition that there's a meeting that's held pre-construction with the residents that are abutters and abutters of abutters.
Thank you.
I can
Move
support
approval.
this paper.
On the motion by Councilor Del Russo, seconded by
Second.
Scott Pelley.
As amended.
As amended.
Yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Councilor Scott Pelley has requested a roll call. Councilor Del Russo, seconded by Councilor Scott Pelley. Councilor Scott Pelley.
Council Del Russo.
Yes.
Council Falco.
Yes.
Council Knight.
Yes.
Council Kern.
Yes.
Vice President March.
Yes.
Council Scarpelli.
Yes.
President Caviola.
Yes. 7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
17, 593, location of poles, attachment fixtures, and underground conduits.
Mr. President, motion to waive the reading and have a representative from the petitioner give a brief synopsis of
If
the
this
project.
is, I'm not mistaken, this is Comcast again.
Only one bill keeps going up.
Name and address of the record, please.
Dave Llewellyn, Comcast, Woburn, Massachusetts.
And you are here in favor of this project?
Yes, I am.
Do we have anyone else here in favor of that project? Hearing and seeing none, I close that part of the thing. Do we have anyone here against this project? Hearing and seeing none, I close that section of the hearing. Continue.
High Street, placing a new 4x4 manhole over the existing Comcast conduit at the intersection of High Street and Hillside Avenue. From the newly placed manhole, excavating to place a 4-inch PVC conduit 115 feet plus or minus, and continuing into 92 High Street, Medford, which is the Armory building. They've requested our service, and this is the plan to provide service to them.
Thank you. Council Falco.
Thank you, Mr. President. Similar to a lot of the questions that I asked previously regarding that previous project, when will the work take place and how long will this project last?
Once approved, if approved, we're still waiting for an MWRA permit that they have. We have received the permit. We have signed off on it. We've reviewed it. We've agreed to it. It's back with the MWRA. They have a new process now where we sign off on the permit first, then we send it back to them, and it's basically goes through their board again. Takes 2 weeks to get it signed. So I was hoping to get this work done, if approved, before Labor Day, before school started. However, it looks like it's going to be sometime after Labor Day before we get that MWRA permit from them. The work should take, depending upon the digging, it is only 115 feet and a 4x4 manhole. I would say probably a week, depending upon the digging, weather permitting. 2 weeks, maybe tops. It's kind of hard to say, not knowing exactly what's in there, what they're going to run into as far as the digging.
And it's on High Street, right?
Yes.
So I assume the road's going to be open, but I would imagine it's going to be probably tough to pass at times, I would think.
Yeah, I did see, I printed the agenda this morning, and I did look at this, and I did see that the chief engineer requested a traffic management plan. I did also request that today from our traffic management people, so I'm hoping to get that, and shortly after Labor Day, I'll be able to bring that into the chief engineer, and we can talk about, if approved, moving forward with the work.
Okay.
There is a chance that on Hillside Avenue, the existing conduit may be damaged. So I thought that I should put this in here and make you aware of that, just in case we do have to do some additional excavating on that road. So there would be no surprises if this project does extend a little bit longer than anticipated. Hopefully we can get through that conduit, but we think it may be damaged.
What of information, Councilor Scarpelli?
How many more feet would that be if there was damage?
I'd have to look at the plan here. I'm not sure if he called that out. $180 feet.
An additional 180 or 180 total?
Additional 180.
So, Mr. President, so
go ahead.
with that additional 180 feet, I mean, how long? Do you know how long that work would take if you have to?
Again, it depends upon the digging. I know that's kind of off the, not as busy a street as High Street, but, I'm sure there's a lot of traffic that goes up and out of that area, and I believe, is it the library that's right there also?
Yeah, the library exits from there,
Right.
and there's a couple of streets that are up in that area. So those neighbors, those residents will be impacted, it sounds like, if there is.
I'm hoping we can get through it. We'll send a crew out there before we start the digging out on the main run, to see if we can get a rod through it. Best case scenario, maybe it's just damaged in a couple of spots and we have to, pothole it and dig it up and repair it. That would be the best case scenario.
Thank you.
Yes.
Councilor Knight.
Sir, were you here when we just did the last permit?
Yes.
And can we have some of your feelings concerning a curb-to-curb pave on this project as opposed to a trench and patch and a ground and inlay?
Okay. Again, I did see that in the comments from the chief engineer, and it did call that out, trench, to pave from the trench to the curb. I would need to go back, if this was approved, I would go back and just make them aware of that would be the requirement of the permit, and therefore it would be a business decision on our end if we were to move forward and then physically go apply for the permit. So if it was approved tonight and it was agreed to, grant the location, and then if I go back and the powers to be decide that this is cost prohibitive to do the paving to the curb, then therefore we would not apply for the street opening permit and not provide service to 92 High Street.
Through the chair. Through the chair.
Councilor Bouquet.
President Carviallo, so 92 High Street doesn't have Comcast service at all?
They don't.
And who's requesting it? The
I
whole
don't have the
building,
name.
or-
I don't have the name of the customer. I was just tasked with getting the permits to get to the building, and then once it's there, X number of, tenants within that building could request the service, so it's at least one.
Thank you.
Council Vice President Marks.
I believe, and I stand to be corrected, it may be a new dental group that's moving in there that's requesting this. And I would hate for Comcast to go back and then decide it was not cost effective to provide service. This new business is just opening and actually reached out to me as one member of the council, seeing when it was gonna be on our agenda. So they're really interested in getting this service to get their business up and running. So at this point, I would, as one member of the council, just support the current work that's going on, and then we can have other discussions regarding curb to curb and so forth.
Councilor Scarpelli.
And I echo the same issues that I've had. Again, this is a little different because it does affect constituents that need to move forward, but if approved, same stipulation, would the residents, would you require that would you input a plan that our residents would hear, would understand the total agenda from beginning to end, so they understand the complexities of the project and any issues and concerns that might come up?
Are you saying having someone on site, or are you just having a point of contact for the project, or?
Well, we've had just point of contact. I'm saying that reaching out to the residents, and same thing, holding a meeting or getting a detailed agenda for them, schedule for them, so they understand what
schedule
might
of
happen.
work.
Right, that they would, at least the abutters to this project understand the complexity of the job, so.
Yeah, we could do that.
Councilor Knight.
The location that you're requesting to dig, and I'm sure you're from Woburn, around the Woburn area, so I'm sure you're familiar with the area, but right at that particular location, there are points in times where there are two MBTA buses that are driving down the street and they can't even get by each other. And without a traffic management plan to take a look at it, it's very difficult to see what impact this is really gonna have on the traffic flow in the square and the business district. I think we had a gentleman from the square who owns a business down there, a restaurant, that's getting killed by construction on the other side of the square. This is gonna be virtually right up the street on the other side, so 2 points of entrance to certain businesses are gonna be blocked or hampered or impeded for a period of time. Now, I know you're only gonna be out there for 1 or 2 weeks tops, as you said,
Yep.
On High Street. And then if any residual effects happen, I'm assuming that the rest of the repair work would go up Hillsdale Road if it's damaged?
Yes.
Okay, and that's not a main drag, I don't think it's a neighborhood, so that's not something I'm so worried about right now, because you guys don't know what's underground over there, you don't know if there is a problem over there. But the concern that I do have was with flow and with the trench repair work, and
Yeah.
I'm not gonna give the same 25-minute thing that I just did at the last one. But ultimately, we have a problem in the community with the way that our trenches are managed and our trenches are overseen. And I don't think we're doing a very good job at it, we need to do a better job at it. So in order for me to be comfortable with this, I need some assurances.
Well, I can say that I'm familiar with the process, and I don't know if you're familiar with this process, but we have an inspection process, and I don't know if we've done a whole lot of work in the city over the past couple of years. This is the first hearing that I've been to in Medford, so the person who had the town before had since retired, so I don't know what work took place before then. I'm sorry?
Did he retire because of us?
No. But I believe it was back in the 90s, somewhere along the 90s, the Department of Telecommunications and Energy came out with something called DTE 9822, which is an inspection process. And we have our project coordinators who are assigned to this job go out and inspect the jobs 30, 60, and I believe it's either 90 or 1 year. And there's a report that goes to the state every year. So that's a task that when we do new trenches that our project coordinators are tasked with doing. Again, I don't know if there's been a whole lot of trenching in Medford, so I can't, really speak to that. but that is one of our process, and we can, you know, it would be certainly part of this.
Been plenty, but
Rick.
not by Comcast. That for a while.
Councilor Longo Kern.
Through the chair, thank you, President Carviallo. I think since you need a permit from the MWRA, I'm just throwing it out there that we table it and get a response back from Comcast for our next meeting of whether or not you'll do curb to curb. I have an issue. I mean, I said in the last petition that I just don't want the trenches to keep sinking. It's, you know, not right for a contractor to leave a piece of property like that, a street or a sidewalk, you know, sinking. But I have a problem with requiring curb to curb in the last one and then, you know, kind of swaying from that here. So I would like, I think it should be, if we need to have a meeting, probably a committee of the whole meeting, and get some answers from you of whether you do the curb to curb, because that's a main thoroughfare. We definitely don't want any sinkage on High Street, and if we're gonna mandate some curb to curb, I think we need to figure out some consistency in how we're gonna do that. I know the business wants Comcast. We fought loud and clear years and years ago that there be competition, so I feel that the business should have it, but we just need to figure out amongst ourselves some way to keep this consistent and uniform, and figure out how to do that prior to probably our next meeting.
Mr. President, if I could.
Councilor Marks.
Typically, what happens is it's the city engineer that requires, when they meet with the city engineer, whether it's gonna be curb to curb or not. So I think we should leave that up to the druthers of the city engineer. On this particular case, as I mentioned, this particular business has a hardship, and they need this Comcast to run their business. And, you know, I don't feel comfortable waiting 3 weeks. It happens on the last petitioner that there was someone in the room that had the authority to grant the curb to curb. This gentleman clearly does not have that authority, and because of the hardship of that particular business that's going into 92 High Street, I don't feel comfortable, Mr. President, leaving this for another 3 weeks. So I will support this tonight. And moving forward, I think some of our questions should be directed to our own city engineer and our own inspectional services on why work is not being put back in the manner that we see fit. So I will support this petition tonight based on that, Mr. President.
Councilor Longo Kern.
Through the chair, I know you said you wouldn't be able to start until sometime after Labor Day anyway, so I think that would only be almost a week postponement if we take this up with some answers from Comcast on September 19th, and I think we need to, again, we just need to be consistent. So I would ask my colleagues how they feel about tabling it for 3 weeks.
Second the motion.
Councilor Dela Russo.
I'm ready to vote on it in approval, Mr. President.
Motion by
Money
Council-
that Comcast gets out of me every month, I'm sure they'll be able to pave High Street from Arlington to Malden with no sweat.
Motion to table.
We have a motion by Councilor Knight to table. Do we have a second?
I'm the
Second.
second. I'm the second.
no.
Motion, that was the second.
Motion by Councilor Longo to table it, seconded by Councilor Knight. All those in
Roll
favor?
call vote, Mr. President?
Roll call vote has been requested. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Council Dela Russo.
Negative.
Council Falco.
Yes.
Council Knight.
Yes.
Council Kern.
Yes.
Vice President Marks.
No.
Council Scarpelli.
Yes.
President Carviallo.
No.
4 in the affirmative.
There's 4-3 to table. Thank
Can
you.
get us that, do you mind, through the chair, get us
Through the
that
chair?
answer of whether or not you could do curb to curb?
I'm
and
sorry?
If you could get us those answers before the next meeting?
Yes.
Thank you.
When will that next meeting be?
The
September?
19th.
September 19th.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Where are we gonna meet September 19th?
That'll be determined this week, and once we have the construction schedule. 17-594, grants of location. We have by no-
Motion to waive the reading and have the petitioner give a brief synopsis of the application.
Do we have someone here? Name and address of the record, please.
Matthew Carmody from National Grid, 170 Medford Street,
And
Malden.
you are speaking in favor of this.
Yes.
Do we have anyone else speak in favor of this project? Hearing and seeing none, I close that part of the hearing. Do we have anyone here that is speaking against this? Hearing and seeing none, I close that portion of the hearing. Thank you. Continue.
This petition is to install a new traffic control box to operate and monitor our existing CAS regulation station. This is replacing outdated equipment to make sure we can monitor for safety and reliability purposes and communicate to our pit itself to monitor the gas system throughout the year.
Thank you. Councilor Falco.
Thank you, Mr. President. If you could just tell us a little bit about the project, how long it's going to take, the hours you're going to be working, how many sidewalk panels you're going to be pulling out?
Some of the sidewalk panels were already excavated. They're in temporary asphalt at the moment from our previous project on Wyman at Woburn. So about 6 to 7 asphalt concrete patches. It should take a few days, regular work hours. This has been pre-construction job walk has been performed with the engineering. So it's generally to take 3 to 4 days, I'd say at most. And all panels will be fully put in ADA compliancy and make sure it's reviewed afterwards with the city engineering department.
Will they be replaced with concrete?
Yes.
Even the ones that are temporarily been replaced with asphalt?
Yes, so we temporarily repair them, so our concrete subcontractor come in, make sure it's ADA compliant, stamped, and so forth. It's also is an asphalt because of we knew this work would be oncoming, so it's only for about 2 to 3 weeks that they certainly have been in asphalt. So as soon as this work is performed, our subcontractor will come in, perform the restoration with concrete.
Okay. You know, and this is sidewalk work, so you don't anticipate any road closures, or?
There shouldn't be any road closures. If there is, it would be for like 1 day max. If so, it would be communicated with the city. This work will be fully communicated with the neighborhood. My cell phone number is on a letter that's hand-delivered to every resident that's a butter. That was given in the petition. Also, we do mail out 3 separate letters, one with 2 YouTube videos to explain exactly what to expect during our work. Also, frequently asked questions and so forth. But like again, we do hand-deliver every single letter with my cell phone number to personally contact me to make sure no one's inconvenienced, and we work with them hand in hand.
Thank you, and that's key that you actually have included your cell phone number, because it's always it's always good that we have a point of contact and that the residents have a point of contact, and especially to, like you said, to supply a YouTube video, which I don't think you hear that too often, but it's always nice that the residents can actually see what's going on, or get more information as to what's going on in front of their homes. So, thank you very much.
Councilor Knight.
Mr. President, thank you very much, and Mr. Kamadi, thank you for being here again. I think we're all familiar with Matthew. He's been here a number of times before. I requested permits. This particular permit I have no problem with. I'll certainly support it this evening, and I look forward to the next permit to come back for some street trench work so we can talk about curb-to-curb paving on one of those jobs.
Seems to be a hot subject. Thankfully I'm in the sidewalk this time.
On the motion.
Move approval, Mr. President.
Second, Mr. President.
Approved by Councilor Del Russo, seconded by Councilor Knight. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. At this point, I relinquish the chair to Vice President Marks.
Motions, orders, and resolutions. Paper 17-610, offered by President Richard F. Caviello. I respectfully request and recommend that Your Honor...
Mr. Chairman, I requested this paper be withdrawn.
The council president requested that the paper be withdrawn.
Before you call the roll, I think somebody wanted to speak on this.
Been withdrawn, there is no roll.
Oh.
Papers
Well,
withdrawn.
so there's
It's not
somebody
on
here
the
that wants to
agenda.
speak on it. I'm just
Paper's
pointing that out.
dead. It's been withdrawn before action.
I'll go on to new business if you have to.
The paper has been withdrawn by request of the council president.
So we'll go to public participation.
So I'll go to new
Thank you.
business.
Thank you. 17-611, offered by Vice President Marks, City of Medford, call for election, preliminary municipal election, Tuesday, September 12, 2017. Be it ordered that in accordance with the provisions of the general laws of Massachusetts and the revised charter of the City of Medford, insofar as the latter is applicable to city clerk, being he, is hereby authorized and instructed to notify and warn such inhabitants of the City of Medford qualified to vote, and the law requires to assemble at several polling places as designated in this order for and within the several precincts where they are duly registered voters on Tuesday, September 12, 2017, then and there to give their ballots for the nomination respectively. 7 members of the City Council to serve a period of 2 years from the first Monday of January 2018 to be elected by and from qualified voters of the city at large. Be it further ordered that the following named polling places be and they are hereby designated to be used at the city election to be held on September 12, 2017. The said polling places to be open at 7 a.m. to 8 o'clock p.m. Voting precincts: Ward 1, Precinct 1, Andrews Middle School, 300 Mystic Valley Parkway. Ward 1, Precinct 2, Firefighters Club, 340 Salem Street. Ward 2, Precinct 1, St. Francis Parish Center, Fells Way West and Fulton Street. Ward 2, Precinct 2, Roberts Elementary School, 35 Court Street. Ward 3, Precinct 1, Lawrence Memorial Hospital, 170 Governors Avenue. Ward 3, Precinct 2, Temple Shalom, 475 Winthrop Street. Ward 4, Precinct 1, Tufts University, Ganchner Center, rear, 161 College Avenue. Ward 4, Precinct 2, Walking Court, Auburn and North Street, Fondacaro Center. Ward 5, Precinct 1, Columbus Elementary School, 36 Hicks Avenue. Ward 5, Precinct 2, Columbus Elementary School, 37 Hicks Avenue. Ward 6, Precinct 1, West Medford Fire Station, 26 Harvard Avenue. Ward 6, Precinct 2, Brook School, 388 High Street. Ward 7, Precinct 1, Mystic Valley Towers, North Building Entrance. Ward 7, Precinct 2, McGlynn K-8 Public School, 3004 Mystic Valley Parkway. Ward 8, Precinct 1, Senior Center, 101 Riverside Avenue. Ward 8, Precinct 2, Veterans of Foreign Wars Hall, 114 Mystic Avenue. Due to the insignificant number of nominees for the office of Mayor and School Committee, those offices will not appear of any part of the planning election, just the office of City Council. Councilor Marks.
Is that moving its way here?
On the motion by Councilor Dela Russo, seconded by?
Second.
By Councilor Scarpelli. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those in favor?
Mr. President,
Yes.
suspension of the rules
Suspension of the rules by by Vice President Marks.
to take paper 17-608 out of order,
And 606 after that.
608,
17-608.
608, and 606. You want to go in order? So you want 608 first?
608, correct.
17-608, petition by Ray Scarfo, 9 Sunset Avenue, Medford, Mass., to discuss inconsistent parking enforcement problems. Mr. Scarfo. Name and address for the record, please.
Ray Scarfo, 9 Sunset Ave, Medford. I'm here tonight for the inconsistency of the park, pay to park. I have right now 2 citizens in attendance to explain to you about their mishaps. So I'd like them to explain them because you'll get a better variable speed on how they have had their problems. And then I'd like to finish off with a statement from another citizen who could not make it tonight, and then a small closing, and I'll be done, so it'll be quick.
You yield the chair to the people who want to speak?
Yes.
Name and address for the record, please.
Dan Papaleo, 10 Brooks Park, Medford, Mass. On July 27th, 1:23 a.m. in the morning, was issued a citation for restricted parking in grass and dirt for $50.
What street is it on?
Brooks Park.
Brooks Park?
Yes. Which there were no signs posted. I was not parked on the grass, you know. There's hot top that's missing, so I'm in the dirt, and it's, you know, kind of congested there, and I went up and filed for a hearing, which I never heard until today. I called them, and they said they were gonna dismiss it, and just give me a warning. But the parking's tough there, and there's no signs, there's no curbing around the park, except for one little section. And, you know, they come by, there's commercial vehicles parked at night, which they go right by, they don't tag them. There's a truck there, the dump truck that's parked constantly, either on Hancock Street, Brooks Park, or Main Street with junk on it, and it sits there sometimes for a couple of days, and he takes up 2 or 3 spots when he parks on Brooks Park, and I've told him many a times, you know, he doesn't live there. He lives on Sylvan Street, 2 streets over with his girlfriend. And, you know, it's becoming an issue, parking there. You know, there's no signs posted, you know, they gotta post something, put some curbing, you know, to warn people, you know. And that's it, you know.
Thank you. But your ticket was dismissed, correct?
It was dismissed. They're sending me something in the mail saying it was dismissed. I called them because I hadn't heard anything. And the girl in the office, Brenda, said that it's the police department that's enforcing this, telling them to write the tickets, which I had talked to somebody in traffic, and he says, we have nothing to do with it, and he says, there's nothing posted there, he says, they have to post something. People have been parking there for 50 years, and they gotta know, put a sign and, warn them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President, I got a couple questions for the gentleman.
Excuse me, sir. Councilor Knight has a couple of questions for you.
It's somewhat unrelated to the topic that you brought up, but we've had a number of resolutions that have gone forward from this council concerning Brooks Park.
Yes.
And some illicit and what we call unsavory behavior going on down there, maybe behind the new apartment buildings and so on. And the council's passed a number of resolutions, and I've followed up a little bit, but I'd like to hear from you as to what impact you've seen. Have you seen an improvement down there in the illicit activity that's going on Brooks Park?
Yeah. But I mean, something's gotta be done with the, around that park. Put up curving or something, put up signs, because a lot of the people, they've been parking there for years, put it up and,
So, but in terms of the bad element that was been in the neighborhood and
The
coming into the
bad
neighborhood?
element, I really don't see much of that.
You don't see it. So aside from this.
There were people down in that parking lot
Yeah.
that were talking about that were, dealing drugs and,
I mean, I've heard they were
whatever.
ordering pizzas to their cars, staying in the
Yeah,
parking lot, hanging out all
right,
night, was
right,
some of the things that I heard from some residents.
But I haven't seen that lately.
So aside from the uptick in the enforcement in the parking over there and some of the communication issues that are going on, everything in the neighborhood seems to be going well?
Seems to be all right, yeah.
Excellent, thank you very much.
Police
sir.
combined, they patrol,
Point of information, Councilor Del Russo.
Mr. President, I want to point out that this council on 2 occasions in the past 4 years has requested that the administration install curbing in the area of Brooks Park.
There was
And I
curbing
think
there at one time, and it was never replaced.
It was removed, it was never replaced, and the late, great Sammy Petrella was a longtime advocate for that improvement.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Good evening. Name and address of the record, please.
Good evening. My name is Claudio Iacono, former Medford. I live now in Reddick. I'm an HVAC technician, so I travel to the city of Medford doing service calls or whatever. Well, a little while back, I pulled up Salem Street, right in the intersection of Spring Street. I parked under a sign that says 30 minutes free parking. I had to drop off a key to the real estate office across the street. I just saw, I came back, there's a ticket on my car. Okay. 2 weeks later, I had to do the same thing, park the same place. This time I'm smart. I go to the chaos machine, broken. They said, go to the next chaos machine. So I walked by the Modern Hardware, which is chaos machine. I went there, that's broken. So now I'm gonna move my car to my friend's building across the way, around the corner. Go back there, there's a ticket on my car. Right, so I went up to the main street, which I used to live right up the street from there many years ago. I asked the attendant, I says, I want to appeal these tickets. She says, okay, it'll cost you $25 to appeal the ticket. So I give her $25 in cash. I got an application. I filled it all out. I haven't heard anything from it. But 3 weeks later, I got a notice. You either pay within 7 days or we suspend your license or your registration. So I went back. I said to the lady there, can I have my $25 back if I pay both tickets? She says, no. I said, you mean to tell me you took $25 from me for an appeal, and now you're not giving me the appeal, no, you're giving me my money back? She says, no. She says, unless you pay this, we're gonna suspend your license. I said, who's your manager? So she gave me a phone number. I called her for a week, nothing. So I finally, I said to myself, forget it, give up. And then my friend there, gentleman, we happened to have coffee, so he happened to mention about this. And there I am. I work in Medford a lot, quite a bit. And it's very, very difficult. I have a commercial vehicle that I do a service call, which in like 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Now, I had pictures. I showed this gentleman at the, what they call the parking place there, where it says 30 minutes free parking. I don't know what that means, because then I got smart. So I parked my car in my friend's parking lot, in the rear there on Salem Street. And I sat at Dunkin' Donuts and watched the guy, a lady, a poor little lady with a cane, from her car to the chaos machine. He bought a ticket before she had the chance to put the money into the chaos machine. That's disgusting. Somebody should do something about it. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay? Have a good night.
Councilor Knight, before you leave, sir.
A couple questions for the gentleman.
Sure. Before you leave, Councilor Knight has some questions for you.
Oh, yeah.
I was just wondering if you had the dates as to when these tickets were issued.
A couple of months ago, I mean, I can get you the dates on the next meeting. I have all the paperwork.
Yeah, shoot me an email. I'd like to be interested in taking a look at
Just
that.
a couple, you know, like I said, in fact, it was a surprise visit.
Okay, yeah, if I can take a look at those, I'd appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you
Councilor
very much.
Scarpelli. Oh, don't go away. Don't go away. Don't go away.
Oh, my gosh. Okay. I didn't know.
You're doing a
it was
good
so
job.
popular.
Stay.
I didn't know.
Why don't you stay a little while longer?
You should have never left Medford. We're gonna keep you here.
I love
So,
that.
but I think that a lot of us have received some phone calls with these simple issues that are very big. And I think this council has asked for meetings, and we've had meetings with the Republic Parking, or have they changed their names again?
No, it's the Republic.
So good. So, so the issues, I appreciate you coming up and talking about it, because we've had a lot of concerns with, I've had a person call that they got a ticket of 201 for blocking blocking the sidewalk as they parked in the driveway. It's something that simple. So the understanding that our residents don't know what's going on and when it's going on is very important, that we meet again and really start pounding and putting some, you saw what had just happened when this council works together and putting restrictions in, things happen. So I appreciate you coming out and sharing that, because I think we need to do the same. So thank you very much.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
On that same point, Councilor Scarpelli's right, and I think it was probably 4 months back where we were inundated with complaints, and we did sit down with Republic Park, and maybe this was around the same time that you were
Yes,
getting the
yeah.
tickets,
Yeah,
about 4 or
about
5
4
months ago, and they had a whole new changeover in staff that wasn't trained properly. So we did meet with the head of the company that's in charge of this area, and he did reassure us, and we cracked the whip, and so did we asked the mayor to do the same. And since then, the complaints that I've received have slowed down tremendously. But there was a time frame, a couple months span, where we were getting, a couple complaints a day, it seemed like, and it was just that the traffic was not trained properly, which they need to get a handle on if they have another turnover. So,
Thank you.
just letting you know, we did meet with the company.
The only comments I have about this is, if the machine is broken, 2 machines are broken, and you have a picture of them, because these iPhones, best thing in the world, and you go up to someone in the office should say, okay, where did it happen? What happened? I'm going to send someone to fix it. But when you walk into that office, which 2 or 3 times, I have nothing to do with this. Why are you here if you have nothing to do with this? See the city councilor, and that's why I'm here. See the city council, see the mayor.
Yep.
I mean, the mayor's busy. She has a lot to do, The city council is busy. Someone should be in that office that can
We're
answer
bored.
this question.
We'll go after it now. So.
Absolutely.
Mr. President?
Vice President Marks.
Just a quick question, so I understand. You paid the $25 to have a hearing.
Yes.
Then you decided to pay the tickets, and you didn't want the hearing.
No. That's wrong.
He was denied.
I was not denied. I was never notified about the hearing. My next notification was, if I don't pay $45 within 7 days, I would have my license pulled away and my registration pulled away.
But you never had a hearing.
And they never give me the money back.
Mr. President.
Mr. President, we should also request, Mr. President, that this gentleman get his money back, first of all. The $25 is for a hearing, if he never had a hearing.
If you can get me the information,
I will.
I would be happy to.
Okay, I
Let's
will.
make councils will tell.
I will, absolutely.
If you can give it to Ray, Ray will give it to me.
I will, yes, I know. I
It's
see
my
Ray
understanding,
doing
Mr. President, when these kiosks are not working, that they get electronic message to the main office. So
Yes.
they know when these machines aren't working. So it's not even a matter of them going out or having a resident say they're not working. They know when they're malfunctioning, and they should be out there immediately servicing these machines so residents don't have to walk, 30, 40, 50 yards to get another kiosk, which is unacceptable in my opinion. So if we can make that part of the report to
Yes.
Mr. President, what is the turnaround once they get notified of a kiosk that's not, that's malfunctioning?
And please give that to Ray, let Ray give it to me, I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
It almost sounds like the gentleman received 2 tickets, right? You received one ticket,
Two tickets.
you received 2 tickets, and you paid $25.
The second one was almost on purpose.
The second
I
one?
wanted to see what.
Yeah, so you came in there and you went and paid $25.
I paid for both tickets.
And then, oh, you paid for both
I
tickets?
paid for both.
Okay, all right. It's because it almost sounded like you paid for one, but not the other.
No,
When you
I
went in
paid-
there,
I-
you peeled one and paid for one, was the
No.
way it was kind of
Plus, I
sounded
paid
like to me.
$25 for the appeal, and never got the money back. All set?
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Good luck.
Thank you. Motion to receive and place on file, Mr. President.
Mr. Scarpa has not completed his, he has one more thing to read.
Real quick, Freddie, I'll do it real quick. Brianna, I'm gonna blow your meeting out of the water that you had with Republic. July 15th, a resident at Yale Street purchased a vehicle where, no, he didn't purchase a vehicle, he changed his plates from one state to our state. Got his plates that day, put them on. At night, he got a ticket for an expired inspection sticker. Now, when you have new plates going on your vehicle, you have 7 days to get your vehicle inspected. Now, for what reason that they give these tickets out without knowing, or I don't know if they have a program that they can reach into the registry to be able to see if these, what the situation is. I mean, they shouldn't be just going and giving a ticket for an expired inspection sticker unless they know for sure that there's a valid reason to give that inspection sticker, a ticket. So this is what happened, is that he, like I say, he purchased the new plates. That evening, that same evening, he got a ticket for an inspection sticker that wasn't valid. And like I say, he has 10 days to get that sticker. So, of course, that cost him. I'm not even sure what the amount was.
Did he appeal?
Mr. President?
$25.
Did he appeal,
He appealed.
did he appeal the ticket? Because obviously it
Well,
was issued in violation of
he
the law.
has appealed the ticket, but he hasn't,
Oh, okay.
he hasn't gotten a hearing, or he hasn't. My question is that if they're gonna be tagging for inspection stickers and stuff like that, they should be able to be in their computer, that they should be able to get to the registry to see if they can actually do this.
If you could get me a copy of that one also, along with that other gentleman's, it would be appreciated, and we'll bring it to the attention of Park Medford.
Okay.
Do you have it with you?
No, I'll have to get it to you.
If you get it, you give it to me, I appreciate it. And I think maybe it's time that we schedule another hearing, a meeting with the Park Medford
That's my
people.
closing. My closing, if you don't mind, I'm requesting that the council have a public meeting and to have a representative of Republic Parking to discuss these inconsistencies. And I think that would be a good idea to get the citizens involved in this. And then you're really gonna see how inconsistent this is.
Well, we've had a public meeting with them before, and
think it's due for
we
another
brought,
one.
and as Councilor Longo said, tickets slowed down dramatically, and a lot of things did get corrected. Maybe it's, then I think that was about 6 months ago.
Less?
4 months ago.
Less than that.
Less than that.
Yeah, so maybe it's time we have another hearing with them. Again, it is a public hearing, and we can bring some
Oh,
other
everybody's
things to
invited,
their
yeah.
attention.
Mr. President, I think every meeting that we have is a public meeting.
Yes.
I mean, every meeting the council has on the agenda is a public, when we convenes a public meeting. And I think also that it's important to point out that, the oversight and the implementation of the traffic regulations falls under the jurisdiction and purview of the Traffic Commission. And Republic can come all they want, but if the Traffic Commission's not on board as the oversight agency, then we're talking to a deaf ear as we're talking to the wall. This is under the purview of the Traffic Commission. This is something the Traffic Commission establishes. They've contracted out with an entity for parking management purposes, and the purposes of the contract is to enforce the existing parking ordinances that are constructed through the Traffic and Parking Commission. So I think that if we're gonna do anything, that should be important that they're involved as well, Mr. President.
And I can totally understand that.
However, also looking at this thing on a citywide basis, there are inconsistencies, there's no question about it, but I think that we need to come up with a better solution than, I have this ticket happen on this day at this place, this guy did this at this place, that approach doesn't really bring us to a solution, Mr. President, and I think we need to come up with some solutions as to what it is that we need to do. And some of these things that are going on in the community have been what I would call laughable in moments, and you know what I mean, just wrong in others. And I've had good luck in speaking with Mr. Stackhouse and explaining the situations that are going on in the community, but part of the issue that I have, Mr. President, is that when we said, you know, let's bring parking into Medford, let's bring parking enforcement into Medford, that the focus was on freeing up spots in our central business districts to prevent people from other communities coming in here and taking up spots in our downtowns. And it's expanded upon that, and I was a little bit more comfortable when the focus was on our business districts, not in our neighborhoods, not on streets that are dead ends, not on streets that, you know, have had families living on these streets for 30 and 40 years, like Sylvia Road, where they have individuals that have a system of how they park because they've all lived together and they're good neighbors and they know what's going on. So they might block a driveway, or they might park with two tires up on the curb so that cars can get by. Now, the gentleman on Brooks Park rather spoke about a commercial vehicle where the guy lives on Sylvia Road. Well, that vehicle's off of Sylvia Road. Why was it off Sylvia Road? Because the neighbors went to him and said, you can't park your car here. It's a commercial plate. We can't get up and down the street. And they policed themselves, and they've been able to do that successfully for a number of years. And we're coming into a situation now where I think Park Medford's focus is leaving the business districts and coming more towards the residential neighborhoods, and we need to really realign and refocus the direction that they're going in, because I don't think it's making the residents' quality of life any better, and I don't think that it's really meeting the objective and goal that was stated when they first came out. So I appreciate you taking the time to come up here, Mr. Scoffel, and the work you put into doing it and investigating.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Name and address for the record, please.
David McKillop, 94 Rock Glen Road. I just want to touch base a little bit on this one situation. I have traveled just about every business district in Medford, as well as a lot of the residents, and I think that this is, I actually agree with Adam Knight that this is a systemic problem. This is not a singular problem in specific areas of the city. And what I mean by systemic is that I really firmly believe that it's time to take Republic and kind of put their feet to the coals at this point and decide what it is that we want to do with this program. It does not behoove the city to not have somebody that's working with this program that doesn't have a vested interest in the city. And I think that's what's happening. On a customer service level, I think what we've done is, unfortunately, we've made a lot of people unhappy, whether they're traveling from downtown to downtown or even some of the businesses. I beg to differ in one area in the respect of talking to the business owners. If you talk to a lot of the business owners, a lot of them will blame their current business status on the parking. And perceptions are realities. When someone's perception is that, you know, their business is down, that's their reality. And I think we have to take that into consideration. Number two, what we've also done in creating this situation, again, going back to Adam's, Councilor Knight's point, is that we've actually forced, yes, there are extra parking spaces in the downtowns, but we've forced those commuters into the neighborhoods, even further in, deeper in. So it really hasn't helped, it's actually hurt tremendously. So it's either we put Republic on notice and let them know that this contract is not a contract that we're all excited about anymore, that we need to kind of put their feet to the fire and make something happen for the downtown communities, for the citizens, and allow them to be able to go in and out of their downtowns feeling good about what they want to accomplish. The kiosks, my personal opinion, do not work in downtowns. They just don't work. They're better in parking lots and the garages, but they're certainly not good on downtown streets. That's just my opinion, and I think it's time. I actually feel bad that the city council has to address all of these issues when it actually should be an in-house program for the city, created by the city, controlled by the city, not another outside entity. Thank you.
Name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. Joe Villione, 59 Garfield Ave, Medford, Mass. When Republic Parking first came in, I did a videotape to bring it to the attention of the public, and it never got on TV. Tonight, an elected official allegedly is parked in a fire lane, so I told Roy Belson, you know, if our elected officials are going to flagrantly violate the rules, why should the citizens pay for parking? It's a sin, it's a shame, and that individual should not be reelected. Thank you.
Motion to receive and place on file, Mr. President.
Motion by Councilor Del Russo to receive and place on file, seconded by Councilor Falco. All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes. 17606, petition for a sign denial reversal by Pastor Exeter, February, for Evangelical Haitians Church of Somerville, 400 High Street, Medford, OCD number 2017-4, sign exceeds allowable space.
I don't want that.
Allowable space size. Is the petitioner here?
Yes.
Take things off committee report.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Marie Wolverson, representing Pastor Favier. He is not here, and my colleague here, Mr. Ulrich German. I would like to first apologize. I believe that I was supposed to attend a meeting, the last meeting that you guys have, and I was overseas. And I came back and found a voicemail, and I wasn't even able to alert Pastor Favier of the meeting because my phone was off. So I apologize if I have wasted anybody's time. But also, I believe that you guys have met on the old denial sign as well, which I wasn't supposed to be on the table anymore because I was told to start over on a new size, new pedestal, because the size of the sign was too big and the pedestal was too high the last time we met. So I went right back downstairs and talked to John Pavuzzo, and we fill out a brand new application and started over. So I was waiting to hear from the city on either an approval or denial of that second application. So I haven't heard from I didn't hear from anyone. So we were just waiting to hear. So when I came back from vacation, I went back downstairs and find out, well, we had a denial the whole time. They just never told the church about it. So that's the second application that you guys have right now, the second denial that you guys have on the second size. As you can see, the pedestal of the new sign is way down to the floor. It come from 3.6 inches to way down to 1 inch, and I believe that was one of the concern. The size went down from 5x8 to 4x8.
Point of information, if I can, the big issue was it was 11 feet.
Yes.
You remember, it wasn't
Yes.
any inches. The sign was 5x8, which
Yes.
I think wasn't something that we had questioned about. The question we
Yes.
had that you had it rose to 11 feet.
Yes.
So if right.
Yes.
So now it's back down to the ground 5x8.
Yes.
Thank you.
Do you have anything else to state?
That's it. I'm sorry, was I talking too much?
No, no.
Okay.
No.
We're here to listen.
Okay, no, I'm done.
Councilor Knight.
Mr. President, thank you very much, and thank you very much for your patience going through the process. I know it can be a confusing and daunting task sometimes to get involved in government when you're not familiar with it. Yeah, ultimately, the sign was 11 feet tall when it was brought forward. They had a rendering of a gentleman that said he was 6 feet tall, and next to the guy, there was a sign that went way over his head. So we all had a number of concerns about that. And for it's at the location of the church right next to the Brook School, so there was some concerns about sight lines and visibility and whether or not it was going to impact pedestrians and cars driving up the street and so forth. I think, in our discussions, we said that we're not really opposed to the sign being 5x8, but based upon the rendering that we have here, we need some confirmation and some assurances that, it's going to be a little different. So
Sure.
This is something that I've been waiting to hear at the council floor since you came in for your first application. We went through the subcommittee process, and the subcommittee did a great job on it. And I certainly don't have a problem supporting the sign this evening, and I'll move for approval, Mr. President.
I second that.
Motion on the floor for approval
No. Second.
by Council Knight, seconded by motion by Council Scarpelli, seconded by Councilor Knight. I just have one question. This is not internally illuminated? This is not illuminated, right?
It is an illuminated sign.
It is illuminated?
Yes. It's always has been.
I retract then.
Okay, I don't recall, I don't see it in the fonts, logos right now. It doesn't state it in the
It is, if you look in the application.
Okay, because what you gave to us doesn't state that it's illuminated.
Mhm.
So the application doesn't come before us. That was
PVC with
denied.
internal lighting.
Yep.
The original didn't have that.
Yep, the first one was, and the second one is as well.
It's not being denied because the lighting is chimney.
No.
Right, so that's not the
It wasn't.
That's the question, so it exceeds allowed size.
It was always size and height. It was always height.
But this council's been on record for many other previous signs, in particular freestanding signs, against illumination. Is there-
Especially hours of operation, I mean,
Is there a recommendation with illumination, or?
just a question.
Councilor Longo Kern.
Through the chair, when will the illumination take place? Is it during the dark 24/7, or will
No,
it be shut off at 10 p.m.?
No, just during daylight. Just during, because pastor is going to be doing church during 9 o'clock 10 o'clock in the morning until 6 o'clock at night. We're off. We're done, because it's only for message during the day and during service hours, and then it's off again. So it's not going to be on at night at all.
Oh, so it'll
Those
be
are in service.
Absolutely. It's just message during service. What pastor wants to do, it doesn't want, we want to kind of offer a message to the community during service hours and during day. We don't want this to be like just solely a Haitian church. We just want to have services, second service, an English service, offering the community to come in. We just want to put a message out there that they can come in for services during service hours, during Sundays. We don't want this to be solely Haitian church. That's it. We do not want this to be all night, because that's electricity. And if you know my pastor, ain't gonna happen. It will not have that electricity going in at night. It's not going to happen.
Councilor Del Russo.
Mr. Chairman, both chairman of this meeting and of the sign committee, I offer a motion of approval for this. Lux Chalorum. Thank you.
So if I could,
Make the condition.
a portion of the sign is for messaging?
Yes.
So you anticipate to have, what, a rotation of?
Yes, messaging's coming for Sunday service. This is a message that's going to come in on Sunday. Please come in on Sunday for service at this hour, 9 o'clock service. Sunday school starts. Just general message for people to come in on our Sunday school service.
Are you aware of the current sign ordinance that regulates how often you can change a sign, the messaging on a sign?
We don't, but my pastor is kind of not very technical savvy, so somebody's gonna have to help him with that. So I'm pretty sure that one of us is gonna have to help him. So that's probably not gonna be. It's probably gonna be on a rotation basis, whatever message that we put in.
So, Council Longo Kern.
I think to clear it up, it's not going to be a scrolling message. It's going to be like 1 week it will say the X, the next week it will say something different. It's not going to be something every 10 seconds.
No, it's basically just really kind of like the message of Sunday school mostly.
Okay.
Like Sunday school date of events mostly. I mean, we had an event in September. We haven't had an event again since September. So basically there wouldn't be anything to announce again until like every Sunday. Sunday school, this is the schedule for Sunday. We have a service once on Sunday, so if we do decide to go with the English language service, so it's going to be 9 o'clock and 12 o'clock. This is the two services that we have. And this is the messages that's going to be happening. So that's probably what we're going to be announcing. So it's not going to be, it's not a business, so I don't see the need to have tons of messages every single day going on this thing. So on the week that we have revivals, which we have 3 times a year, revivals, we probably will have a message say, this is what the message is going to be tonight, and tomorrow there's going to be another message. Every night there's going to be service for revival, 7 days. So every day there's going to be a message for what the message is going to be tomorrow for revival. Okay. So that's that type of stuff.
So, Councilor Scott Pelley.
Again, I think this is why having that subcommittee, that meeting is so important.
Sure.
Because I'm spinning right now. I'll be honest with you, I'm trying to gauge. The conversation would have been is understanding what the ordinance is, so you understood.
Sure.
The more in-depth conversation would have been the acceptance of the size of the sign, if it's illuminated.
Yeah.
Would we accept it? So I don't know. I look for guidance from my senior colleague on this committee.
Yeah.
May I, Mr. President? Council Falco has a
I just
comment.
got a quick question. So this,
Sure.
this part here in the lower half, that is that the actual section that has the message piece?
Yeah,
the
so the
revival?
top part is going to be the logo of the church. That's not going to be illuminated at all. That will cost the
That's not
church way
illuminated.
too much money. It's
Okay.
just literally down in the bottom.
Just that revival
That's
piece.
it. That's it.
And is that like, I'm just trying to look at the sketch here, and is that 3 feet? It says you have 1 here and then 4.
Can I just come over?
Is that 3 feet of this here? Is that
4 feet, that's like probably 2 feet worth of.
is it 2 feet?
Yeah, that's about like maybe
3 feet of messaging?
Yeah. That's about 2 feet.
So it's about 2 feet of messaging?
That's about less.
Because it looks like that's a foot there, so 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, this
That's
one
3
is
feet of messaging.
This one is
Oh, no,
the
bottom's a
pedestal.
pedestal.
That's the pedestal.
Okay, so that takes you a foot
Yeah,
up.
that's
So-
the pedestal.
So,
From that little line
so
up is-
1
it's about
to
2 feet.
4.
No, the whole width is 4. All the way
Yeah,
to the top
the
is
whole
4.
thing is 4.
So that's half of it, it's 2 feet.
Yeah,
Oh, okay,
that's
so that's 2
2 feet
feet.
in two,
Okay,
yeah.
okay. I thought there was a line there. I'm
So
sorry, that's my
2
mistake.
feet is going to be
So 2 feet, well, so it'll be kind of almost like a mini movie screen
yeah,
almost?
That's it. Yeah.
No.
No, because if you you know,
It's
that's actually,
it's
that's
4.
graphics, that's.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
it could be, right,
The
any type
top
of
part of it is going to be the logo,
on
and
there.
then it's going to be the Evangelical Haitian Church. So that's just
Right.
basically paper.
Right.
That's not going to be illuminated. It's just the bottom part
the
of
bottom.
it. That's it. That's going to have to be the message of the day.
I mean, council and I might have a resolution, but I think that maybe that's what I'm thinking for.
Council and
I personally, Mr. President, have lived next to churches and across from churches with my address on High Street, where I have 2 churches that are right next to me, and neither church has one church has a sign and one church doesn't. The church that has the sign that's not in it's in nonconformity with our sign ordinance always has message posted on. The church that doesn't have a sign instead puts 2 stakes out there and it puts a banner out there, and they change the banner from time to time, and it looks awful. It looks absolutely terrible. It's an eyesore to the neighborhood, really. And I think that, this isn't going to be harmful, provided that we can put some restrictions on it. It's a special permit request. They're asking us to issue a special permit, and we have some concerns about internal illumination. I'm assuming that the concerns that my councilors have about internal illumination are that they don't want it lighting up the sky at night. So we can put restrictions on it, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, whatever it is that we feel comfortable. And we can also put restrictions on it if we approve the sign to say that they won't hang any banners or any other type of materials in the front lawn. So ultimately, we'll have a clean, crisp look. It may be a little bit bigger than we're used to, but at least we're still protecting the quality of life in the neighborhood, because I think a big sign that's lit up, that's controlled in the certain hours that it's controlled to be lighting up, is much better for the neighborhood than 2 posts that are stuck up there with an old sign that's hanging down the middle, and then it gets changed every 3 days, and it flaps in the wind, and it looks terrible. So I'm inclined this evening, Mr. President, to support the petition as filed. However, I know that my colleagues have concerns, and I want to be a part of coming up with a solution that we can all have by putting our heads together. And I think that putting restrictions on the application would probably be a solution that could kind of satisfy everybody behind the rail.
My recommendation as chairman of the committee would be, because it's a freestanding sign, because it's internally illuminated, because it involves movement, I think it merits a subcommittee meeting. We can get one within the next week and a half, 2 weeks, very soon. We had one already that I know you were out of town and could attend. So that would be my recommendation to this body, that we meet in subcommittee just to iron out and put forward the best proposal.
Yeah, I too, I wouldn't, I just think, I concur with Council Knight putting some restrictions, but I think that has to be done in subcommittee. So again, I support the subcommittee, moving this to subcommittee and doing it relatively soon. I know that we're so we can move pretty quickly, but I think we need that. Thank you.
Mr. President, I withdraw my motion for approval and second the motion that this be sent to the subcommittee on signs, etc.
I no longer have a second.
Second.
I no longer have a second.
Seconded by Councilor Scarpelli. All in favor?
Aye. Mr.
Opposed?
President, please mark me in opposition.
Are you still chairing?
Yes.
He's still chairman.
Councilor Knight in opposition. This will be sent to the subcommittee on signs, economic development and signs, within the next week or so. You'll get notice from the city clerk, Ed Finn.
Thank you for your patience.
Hey, Mr. Chair,
Thank you.
if we can, I don't know if we're still in suspension of the rules, but
We are still in suspension of the
if we can
rules.
go to paper in the committee to have our friends from Wegmans, if we can, call them up.
Yeah, you wanna report?
Oh, for the sign.
report it out?
Yeah, report it out if we can, please.
Yes, we can. Scott, Phil Marks, chairman of that committee?
Mr. Chairman was,
Sorry. Chairman was absent.
Chairman, Mr. Council Scarpelli, if you could report that out, please?
I did, I sat as chair in that subcommittee prior to our meeting, and if we can, point me in the right direction. Yeah, you see that?
The Wegman sign, it's not on here.
It's. Apologize.
Subcommittee meeting.
It was
Tonight,
tabled.
subcommittee
Oh,
was
yeah, subcommittee.
tabled.
We took up,
It's up here online.
We took up the sign, the issue was for the liquor, wine, and.
Wine, liquor, and beer sign.
Wine, liquor, and beer sign that was tabled and moved to subcommittee. We voted in favor to move that paper forward in approval, so,
Second.
now,
Yeah, we-
open it to the floor.
I second that.
Okay.
On the motion,
to accept the committee report.
accepted by Council Scarpelli, seconded by Council Longo Kern. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Is the
Thank you,
paper
Peggy.
on the committee, is the paper come off the floor? Did the paper come off the floor to approve it?
We just adopted it.
We just adopted it?
Yes.
Part of the committee
Motion.
report.
Motion to revert back.
19573.
Yep.
We kept
I
the
think
committee.
that's my phone.
Yes, 75 they kept in committee. Motion by Council Del Russo to revert back to regular business.
Aye.
All in favor, aye. Okay. Doing it back. 17,595. Offered by Councilor Knight, be it resolved that the administration provide the following to the council. 1, a list of all C-Click Fix complaints made regarding the operation of Stone and Skillet located at 186 Winthrop Street. 2, a list of all complaints made to the code enforcement officer made regarding the operation of Stone and Skillet located at 186 Winthrop Street. 3, a list of all code violations issued to Stone and Skillet located at 186 Winthrop Street. 4, a list of complaints made to the Board of Health regarding the operation of Stone and Skillet located at 186 Winthrop Street. Number 5, a list of all complaints made to the Police Department and Traffic Commission regarding the operation of Stone and Skillet located at 186 Winthrop Street. 6, a list of all permits, licenses, or similar documents issued by the City of Medford to the entity known as Stone and Skillet, 186 Winthrop Street. Councilor Knight.
He's actually.
move approval, Mr. President.
No, table it and allow him to speak when he gets back.
When he gets back.
Okay, if we could table that till Council Knight gets back. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Oh, way to go. Nice one, Judah.
17,596, offered by Council Longo Kern. Be it resolved that the Medford City Council is presented with a potential expenditure bond request. We are also presented with an itemized breakdown of how the monies will be spent. Be it further resolved that we be provided with the information at least 1 week prior to the City Council meeting rather than in the night before being told it's an emergency. Councilor Longo Kern.
Thank you, President Carviello. This sparked off of our July meeting. I believe we were here about 5-ish in the evening, and our meeting went till about 12:30 in the morning. And one of the last agenda items was an expenditure of $4.5 million, and I just wanted to, we did vote for it, but I woke up the next morning. I voiced my frustration with regards to a lack of a breakdown of that money. And then I woke up the next morning and I, was a little frustrated my frustration continued. So I did email Finance Department, Treasurer's Department with all my additional questions, and I did eventually get the answers I wanted. And it was a project that obviously needs to be done, but I just wanted to make a point to put it on the agenda to let people know that I was frustrated. We were given, again, $4.5 million. We were given an explanation, besides a couple lines in our agenda. We were given a 4 or 5 page explanation of the project, broken down by individual street, the night of our meeting. So when we notice it, it all depends on when we read additional information that's on our desk. I was paying attention to the meeting and I didn't see it until it was actually before us. Scrambling to read it the night of a meeting at 11:30, 12 o'clock at night it's difficult. Lights were beaming on us and we were tired, and it's some information that I would expect to receive at least a week prior to a vote of such magnitude. So I wanted to get a vote by the council. And to continue with that, the explanation didn't have a breakdown of the money. It was broken down 2 different ways how we were gonna get the money, but it wasn't broken down by street. Thankfully, I got it the next day, but I would just like to request that the administration provides us. We always talk about transparency. I just would like that we be provided information on expenditures a week prior to the meeting. That it be something, we stuck strong tonight, and we obviously, hopefully, will create some change going down the line on trench work and road work within our city. We stuck strong and had parking enforcement a few months ago, and we made significant changes. I think we need to stick together as a body and say to our administration, we need information before it is presented on our council agenda. We should not be given information on a project, an expenditure, on a bond request the night of our meeting at 7 o'clock at night. It should be weeks, if not days, before our meeting, and that expenditure should be broken down in detail. And that's something that wasn't done for us, and it's something we're, as a body, not mandating. And I think I'd like to take a vote tonight that we request and mandate that we be given an explanation and an expenditure breakdown 7 days prior to our meeting, and make a change, and all stick together and try to be able to, it's very frustrating when the next day somebody's going to be asking you questions about it, and you don't have it. You don't have the information of how much money is going to go to Paris Street, how much money was going to go to Evans Street. We didn't know that. We voted for it. It was very late. And that's the way it happened. But I think going forward, we owe it to the taxpayers of this community to get information prior to taking such serious votes. So I'd ask for a roll call vote on this, and hopefully we can stick together and make a stand.
Thank you. On the motion by Councilor Longo-Kern. Did you want to speak? Name and address of the record, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm Rob Capucci, 71 Evans Street. This is a fraud. This kind of pertains to what Councilor Brianna Longo-Kern is talking about, but I had to leave that meeting that night. Now, with the breakdown of that money, can I ask, was Evans Street a part of that?
Councilor Longo-Kern?
I'll forward you the breakdown. It was a page or two, and I don't believe it was.
Yeah, I don't.
From what I heard, what happened was, after being told the street was going to be fixed this year, it's not this year.
Yeah, that's true.
That's what
Mr. President,
I think you may correct.
Evans Street was not included in that expenditure request that came forward. It's being funded through another process, and from what I understand, now I'm pretty frustrated about the 7th Street thing too. We're looking at this 24, maybe 36 months now. It's been going on. It's going out to bid. It's going to be out to bid in May. Well, it never got out. The bid never got awarded in May. Then work's going to start. May, June. Well, now it's August. Work still hasn't started. So I'm a little frustrated with this situation as well. But to answer your question, no, it wasn't included in that. It's being funded through a different mechanism and a different paper.
Well,
I have it in front of me. Just to go through the list, Grove Street and Linden Street, new water mains, $830,000. Paris Street and Pinkert Street, new water mains, $790,000. Hydraulic model citywide, $30,000. Water meters, $150,000. MTUs, $75,000. 225 project is $350, and the 125 in enterprise budget. Private lead service replacement was $200,000. It goes into more detail, and then it says the contract is broken down as follows. Year one, $1,298,445.09. Water service and water main replacement as followed, and then Evans Street is listed under water main replacement. So there's no construction of the road within this, but you know, Evans Street, they do plan on
This year?
year one of the contract, so I think that'll be 2017, beginning of 2018, if I can recall.
So how they gonna do that work in the winter?
Exactly.
And how can you say that they're gonna do water main repair without, I mean, to get to the water main, you have to dig up the street, so obviously.
That's why they haven't resurfaced the street, because they want to dig it up to take the water mains out.
Yeah.
That I think was always the plan. We're just hoping to be repaved by now.
What happened was the contract got awarded, Mr. Capucci, and then when the engineering department said that this is your construction schedule and your construction criteria, they said, we can't meet those criteria, so you have to rebid the construction. So they backed out of the deal after they were awarded the contract. But from what I understand, they weren't one of the preferred vendors that the city uses anyhow, so the product that they put out isn't necessarily one of the better ones, but based upon the public bid laws, that's what we were stuck with. So although it's been taking a long time, the delay may be a blessing, because from what I understand, the workmanship of that entity isn't necessarily the best of the best.
I don't know about it, it being a blessing, Councilor Knight. The residents on my street, knowing that I come to a lot of the city council meetings, they have been asking me for months now.
Mr. Capucci, I'm in full agreement with the residents in your street that know that I come to a lot of city council meetings too, call me and say the same thing.
Right, I do not hold this council accountable for the street and road repair on Medford Street pertaining to this year. It's been decades since the street has been serviced. I speak tonight in favor of Councilor Longo Kern's resolution to have the specificities on future appropriations outlined, because the administration put out, a letter that in good faith these councilors looked at and then notified the residents on my street, who for years have been wanting Evans Street to be fixed. And I think it was appropriate for you to do so. But then along the chain of departments that it has to go through, the engineer's office, the purchaser's office, then out for bids, then back to the mayor to choose the bids. It was a serious ball dropped. I wish the residents on my street weren't told that it was gonna be done in May, but I hope that you stand resolved to hold whatever administration is in power to, doing simple things like street and road repair, especially when it's gone for decades neglected. In a city that, through different accounts, I mean, I sat through all the subcommittee meetings on the budget, and I see how expenditures not paid get thrown back into the general fund to where it's now ballooned into tens of millions of dollars. And to tell any resident, the people that came up before, on Brookings, the curbs, or go up Adams Street on the hillside, go on any street up in the heights, for this city to be sitting on so much money in simple things like road repairs aren't being done. It's a little disheartening, for lack of a better term. I hope that you all vote in the affirmative on Councilor Brianna Longo's current excellent resolution tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Name and address of the record, please.
Dave McKillop, 94 Rock Glen Road. I think this just goes back to a testament of having a yearly comprehensive strategic plan in place for these processes. To actually sit down and actually have to vote on something in midnight on something that needs to be acted on relatively quick is absurd. It makes no sense for a city to work that way. When you want to sit down and come up with a comprehensive plan for the following year, that discussion should have already taken place in the month of August. it should already be ready for it the following year as to what we are going to do as a city and what actions we are going to take and what monies we need to do that. That is a proactive plan. And I think that, Councilor Cohen's suggestion to at least have 7 days is admirable, but I think it really has to be something that the council should really come together on, team spirit-wise, and say, hey, from this point on, we will not accept anything that isn't a comprehensive plan that gives the city and the budget enough time to plan for this and move forward and feel comfortable that it can be done and can be done on a timely basis so the citizens can feel good about the projects that are in front of them. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. On the motion by Councilor Longo Kern.
Through the chair, just my last vote, my last point, I do ask for the support on this. Having been frustrated and emailed the administration the next day, I received a detailed breakdown by I think it was 1:05 p.m. So there's no reason why we shouldn't be provided a breakdown of expenditures prior to our meeting. I just think it's a lack of respect, and I think that needs to change.
Thank you. On the motion by Councilor Longo Kern.
Mr. President, if I could?
Vice President Marks.
Thank you, Mr. President. I feel my council colleagues' frustration because this is something that's not new. This has been happening for years, that either this administration or the previous administration would present expenditures to us with no supporting documentation, and either the council may or may not support it. And in my opinion, I know what you're trying to get at through this resolution, but all it is a request. Madam Mayor, will you please give us supporting documentation when you ask for expenditure? Now, she could say, okay, I'll take that under advisement. The bigger issue that we have as a council is our council rules. We have a council rule that states any request of expenditure only needs one member of the city council to stand up and say, you know what, I want this tabled. You don't need a vote of the council. It's one member of the city council saying, I need this tabled, and it gets tabled automatically. And that's our check and balance. So when something's presented to us and you feel there's not enough information, you evoke the council rule that would request that it be laid on the table. And there's no vote on it. It's automatic. So I would state that, we do have options out there, and a request to the mayor now is great, and if the mayor starts adhering to that, super. But I wouldn't put all my eggs in that basket. I think we as a council have to use the remedies that we have, and one of them is our own council rules. So I would highly recommend to my council colleagues that if there is expenditure and you feel that there's not an appropriate amount of time or information, that rule be evoked and automatically gets laid at least for 1 week so we can get additional documentation. I will support the paper tonight in principle, but I really don't think it has any teeth. But I'll support it in principle.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Councilor Del Russo.
I agree with Councilor Marks on the matter. In fact, with the way the resolution is written, I don't even know who it's addressed to. So, thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. On the Councilor Knight.
I think Councilor Marks is on the right track, Mr. President. I think it's, our council rules can dictate whether or not this is something that we can handle ourselves without having to make a request of the mayor. Also, if we look in our council rules, it says every ordinance and every order for a bond issue shall before its passage be referred to the solicitor, who shall forthwith examine its legality and respond back to the council in writing thereof. Rule 22. So, there are a couple of remedies in there for us to take, and I think that we should just do them ourselves as opposed to kicking it across the hallway. We voted on this in the past. I've supported this measure in the past, Mr. President. Some of the frustrations that my councilors share, I don't see as much of I have a strong working relationship with the administration, past and present. I pick up the phone when I get my agenda and I talk about issues that I have questions on. But maybe that some people don't have that type of access. I don't know. I do the best I can to get the information and be prepared for the meeting. But I think that our council rules could really dictate what direction that we can go in and how we can police this ourselves as opposed to relying on someone else to do it. But it's something I've supported in the past. I certainly have. But this evening I won't be.
Thank you, Councilor Knight. On the motion on the motion by Councilor Longo Knight, by Councilor Longo Kern, it's getting late. By Councilor Longo Kern, seconded by Councilor Del Russo.
Thank you, Mr. President. Rob Capucci, 71 Evans Street. Just really brief. I completely understand what Councilor Marks is saying, but on the flip side, what Councilor Longo Kern is saying is the presentation of these appropriations coming in as dire and needed, and at the last minute, that to invoke that council rule
Urgency.
number one, it's almost like sets up the council to look bad. I think it's
Point of
may
information, Mr.
not.
President?
Point of
it may not
information,
have-
Councilor Knight.
Quite frankly, the item doesn't have to make the agenda if we don't have the information that we need. Just because the mayor sends a paper and says, put this on the agenda, it doesn't have to happen the next week. You know, we control our own agenda. We control when the items and matters come up. So if we get a paper that says, put this on the agenda, we say, well, let's talk about the council, but when we want to put this on the agenda. Maybe we have 6 papers that are coming up for bonds, and let's talk about bonding for a whole meeting and have a universal picture of what's going on in the city of Medford in terms of bonding, instead of doing it, playing connect the dots. So, you know, there's different ways that we can handle this, I
Move the
think.
question.
Right, I understand that, Councilor Knight, but when they do come up at the midnight hour, I don't think that this resolution lacks teeth. I think what Councilor Longo Kern is doing astutely is sending a message not only to the mayor, but a message to the people that you guys represent, that we are gonna do something about your taxpayer dollars. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
President.
On the motion by Councilor Longo Kern, seconded by Dela Russo. Roll call vote has been requested. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Council Dela Russo.
No?
Council Falco.
Yes.
Council Knight.
No.
Council Longo Kern.
Yes.
Vice President Marks.
Yes.
Council Scarpelli.
Yes.
President Caraviallo.
Yes. 5 in the affirmative, 2 in the negative. Motion passes. Motion to revert back to 17-595. Councilor Knight.
Thank you, Mr.
Stone and
President.
Skillet.
Yes, Stone and Skillet, Mr. President, is located on the corner of West and Winthrop. It is a bakery wholesaler that, over the past several months, has not been the greatest of neighbors, Mr. President.
Are they moving?
I've received a number of complaints from area residents concerning their hours of operation, the cleanliness of the facility, and some parking concerns that they have. Ultimately, this bakery wholesaler has operated in excess of our hours of operation. They're permitted to operate from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. Between May 1st and June 22nd, I personally reported 16 violations of operation after hours. This coupled with the fact that there's a dedicated parking spot beside the building for 30-minute parking, which has turned into Stone and Skillet's personal loading zone for their rent-a-truck 18-wheeler that sits there for 7 to 8 to 9 to 10 hours a day without moving. The facility and the grounds around it are in deplorable condition, Mr. President, and I'm asking for these materials so that we can move forward and investigate whether or not there's anything that we can do to designate them as a public nuisance and move them out of the neighborhood. So it's been brought to my attention in recent weeks since I filed this resolution that a gigantic for rent sign has been placed on the side of the building, which would lead me to believe that Stone and Skillet is on their way out of the community. This bakery wholesaler does not fall under the jurisdiction by state law of our local Board of Health. They're controlled by the State Board of Health. So we have very limited recourse concerning our concerns about the cleanliness of the facility and what's going on around it. However, with this good news coming forward that they are putting the place up for rent, I'd still ask the paper to move forward and for us to be prepared, because they said they were going to move last year, they said they were going to move the year before that, and they haven't, Mr. President. They've certainly outgrown this facility, and I think it's time that they find a new location. Whether that location is in the city of Medford or somewhere else is to be determined, Mr. President, but right now I think that these residents have been subjected to enough quality of life issues down there that the benefits that Stone and Skillet are bringing to the community are lacking, and the impact on the quality of life that they have is major, and for that reason I bring this resolution forward and ask my council colleagues to support it.
Thank you. On the motion by Councilor Knight, seconded by Councilor Dela Russo. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. 17-597, offered by Councilor Longo Kern, be it resolved that the Medford City Council set up a committee of the whole meeting on the 19th or the 26th of September to discuss and review a potential new ordinance to help remedy level 3 gas leaks within Medford. Councilor Longo Kern.
Thank you, President Caraviallo. A few months ago, not even, I don't think, probably June, I brought up a City of Boston ordinance that was regarding gas leaks, level 3 gas leaks, and the City of Boston is taking measures to hold the utility companies accountable and to remedy those gas leaks. It's a in-depth ordinance. I did forward it to the city clerk, who I then forwarded it to the rest of my colleagues. So this is almost just a reminder to maybe hopefully take a read and we can do something about it. This issue was brought to me by a citizen who probably is going to speak on it, Mr. Tudin. I think it was led in Boston by a group of moms who are trying to prevent gas leaks because of all the damage they do to,
The gas bill.
the gas bill, number one, but it's a safety issue, and wildlife and the environment, it's not a good thing, and we'd like to see what they're doing, read about it, and hopefully craft our own ordinance to accommodate our needs, and hopefully get the city engineer on board and give her a tool to make sure that when a street is dug up, gas leaks are looked into and fixed. So I would hope that we can review and come up with an ordinance sometime in September so we can move approval on this.
Councilor Del Russo.
President, we have a paper from the mayor tonight that I think addresses part of this issue, Mr. President, that is being taken up by the State House to address it on a state level by creating an act relative to protecting consumers of gas and electricity from paying for leaked unaccounted gas, which will of course force the gas company to deal with leaks because it gets them where it counts, in their pocketbooks, because that's what it's all about. Mr. President, I don't know if this has to go to committee of the whole. I would think that procedurally the best thing to do would be to send this to the Committee on Ordinances to review the draft of the Boston ordinance, to ask the city solicitor to be in attendance at that meeting, to add his expert legal advice, and then report it out as is often outlined by the proper procedure by Councilor Knight.
Councilor Longo-Kern, would you prefer this go to the ordinance, subcommittee on ordinances?
I think it's a good ordinance the way Boston has it written. I think it just requires a review, and the city solicitor sit with us as an entire body, which is going to end up in committee of the whole anyway.
Okay.
I don't think it has to be redrafted in much a way. I think committee of the whole meeting would be preferable to move it forward quicker, and rather than take months and months to get two meetings set up. I think we can do it in one.
On the motion by Councilor Longo-Kern to have a committee of the whole meeting on the 19th to 26th of September, seconded by Councilor Falco. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion
Opposed?
passes. Mark, Councilor Del Russo in opposition.
Also, Mr. President.
Sorry?
Oh, I'd like to be marked on.
And also Councilor Knight.
Draft.
I'll do my best. We'll see what's on the calendar for the 19th and 26th.
And I think somebody might want to speak on it.
Yeah, just real quick. I've been disposed of. Hi, I'm Curtis Student, 340 High Street, Medford, Massachusetts. I just wanted to invite the council to a meeting on August 22nd, which is of the 350 Massachusetts Mystic Valley organization that has been dedicated to looking at this gas leak issue. We're going to have a meeting specifically about level 3 gas leaks in Medford, so if any councilor or any resident of Medford doesn't want to wait until September to learn more about it, they're welcome to come to a meeting here at Medford High School, 7 o'clock, and you'll learn everything you need to know about the issue. So I just wanted to make sure people were aware of that meeting.
Thank you.
And thank you for
Thank you for that
addressing it.
information. 17-598, offered by Councilor Knight. Be it resolved, the Director of Purchasing provided the City of Medford Council with an update on the implementation of the wage theft ordinance, and be it further resolved that the Director of Purchasing provide the council with a list of all vendors awarded contracts for fiscal year 2017 and 2018. Councilor Knight.
Mr. President, thank you very much. Back a few months ago, this council passed a wage theft ordinance, and wage theft ordinance is designed to ensure that taxpayer dollars that are being paid to public contractors are then passed on to their employees pursuant to the public wage laws. What happens a lot of times in these instances is an individual that works for a private contractor that lays pipe, for example, with all these groups that we had here this evening, that's working on a public works project laying pipe, is going to have to be compensated at the prevailing wage rates of the community established by the Department of Industry. And a lot of times what happens is when a private contractor gets a public contract, they continue to pay their clients their employees at a rate that's far less than the prevailing wage rate, and then they pocket the difference. And the laws are clear in what they call for. They call for individuals working on a public work project to be compensated at the prevailing wage rate. Taxpayer dollars are being funneled away from workers and being funneled into the pockets of profiteers. So we passed the wage theft ordinance, Mr. President. Part of the wage theft ordinance called for the city to examine whether or not any of the existing contracts have been included on the disbarment list at the Attorney General's office or found in violation of any wage and hour laws that are established at the state and federal levels. And where this ordinance is now up and running and in effect, Mr. President, I'd just like to get a report back from the administration as to what steps they're taking to implement and whether or not any of the contractors that we've awarded contracts to have actually been found in violation of any of the state or federal wage laws or have been included on the state disbarment list so that they're exempt and precluded from bidding on future public works projects, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Knight. Name and address of the record, please.
David McKillop, 94 Rock Glen Road. My question to Councilor Knight is, does this also include, in the initial part of it, when they actually put the bid out, they usually put in a labor amount. That labor amount could be ballooned in the respect of an hourly versus an hourly wage. So I'm not sure if a city contract is the same, but in general contracts, when contractors come out and they do work, the labor amount is based off of what they're charging for a labor amount. Some places could charge $45, some places could charge $75, some places could charge $80 per hour. It's irrelevant to actually what they're paying the employees. Does that also encompass that?
The Wage Theft Act just ensures compliance with the existing wage and hour laws.
Okay.
And it requires the applicant for the public bid to make certain disclosures to the community so that if in fact they are found in violation, then they have to take certain steps to ensure that if a complaint is brought forward to them, that they have bonded funds that are available to cover the payroll if in fact they have funneled or diverted this money from the worker and into the coffers of the business. So it doesn't really necessarily speak to the actual total amount of the bid. What it does is say if you have 7 people that are designated as a municipal street sweeper, you need to pay the municipal street sweeper rate of $37 an hour for the hours that they work on the contract, and you're going to work the contract for this many hours, so that's the rate that you have to pay them. And the rate's established by state law, by the Department
So
of Labor and
that
Industries.
protects the actual employee.
That protects the employee
It does
from
not
having the wage.
protect the city from a ballooned rate.
Well, the rates are established through the Department of Labor and Industries based upon the
For the
region that you're in.
employees.
For the workers.
I'm talking about the actual bid itself.
Well,
There's
the bid
nothing in there
process is
that would actually help.
Right, the
in that
public
respect.
bid laws are relatively specific, and the city's ability to go and put restrictions in that would exceed the requirements that are established by state or federal law is not available to us.
Okay, that's what I
Yeah.
meant, so, all right, so in other words, we couldn't come in and say, you cannot go any further than 15% above the actual rate that you're paying per employee. Yeah, 'cause- So basically, that's where the companies would actually take the additional amounts and funds as opposed to that area. so.
Or say you work a 40-hour work week, but you really worked a 60-hour work week, and they paid you 40 hours at straight time and then the 20 hours under the table.
Right.
Or say that you worked a 40-hour work week, a straight 40-hour work week, and they only paid you at your previous rate from the job that you were working that's not a public work project. And that rate is 50% less than what you should be making when you're working on the public work project. I think that's some of the, it's really an effort and attempt to get some of these unsavory contractors that do business in municipalities out.
I guess the reason why I make that point is because if they're being enforced, which is great, and it's an absolute important point, then the contractor themselves will find their way to make their money anyway, and that's kind of where they're going to find their way, is the labor ballooning actually in the
Well, the thing that they like to say in the industry, which would be called the change order, I believe they call it. I think that's a code for more money.
Thank you.
Thank you. On the motion by Councilor Knight, seconded by Councilor Delarusso. All those in favor?
Suspension of the
Motion-
rules,
Suspension of the rules by Councilor Longo-Kern.
just to allow a citizen to speak.
Opposed, Mr. President.
Second. Do noted. Name and address for the record, please.
Anne Marie Cunha, 871 Fells Way, Medford, Mass, of course. First of all, I want to say thank you to all of you, and I know it's been a long evening, so I will not try to take up too much of your time. but I did want to address the councils. On Friday, August 11th, the incumbents and the candidates for the Medford City Council were invited to present or be present to witness the city clerk and 3 members of the Registrars of Voters Department draw the names of the primary election ballot to be held on September 12th. While we were all together, all candidates had agreed and signed a letter addressed to the City Council to the attention of President Caraviello to place our request on tonight's agenda. We are proposing, with the City Council's approval, to waive the primary and request a home rule petition. I'm here to state that, yes, we all have the right to the democratic process, but in this particular situation, I believe the money spent for a primary can be utilized in a much more productive manner. There is one additional person on the ballot that requires the city to have a primary. What amplifies the democratic process more than for all candidates to have equal opportunity on the day of the election? A primary will cost anywhere between $35,000 and $45,000, and I, for one, do not want to add additional expenses onto our taxpayers. For those who believe the money has been allocated for the primary, then why not utilize it in different areas, such as education, public safety, drug prevention programs, or simply towards the maintenance of our streets? I am here to be on record with full disclosure and transparency as a candidate of the Medford City Council and a resident of this city to respectfully request the Medford City Council vote on waiving the primary and submitting the request of our home rule petition. I do have the letter. I'm not sure if you are all aware. I do have a copy of the letter that was signed by all 8 candidates, and I'll be more than happy to give it to all of you.
I think they all have it.
Do you all have a copy of this?
It should have, did it go out in the packet this week? It should have.
Okay, here you go. I don't know if you have enough. This should be there.
Mr. President, if I may? I guess the question that I have,
Councilor Knight.
Mr. President, is this letter that's been signed, do all 8 candidates still stand in support of it?
No, I thought that.
I can answer that. I withdrew I put the motion on with the agreement that all 8 candidates support it. One candidate notified me on Saturday that they did not want to continue on it, and which prompted me to withdraw the motion.
We'll share, Larry.
Would you be willing to disclose, Mr. President, which candidate?
I will not.
We know it wasn't Ms. Cunha.
Yeah, I think people
It wasn't
changed
Ms.
their mind.
Cunha, no. And for the record, if there were 8 candidates, I guess I have a question. If there were all 8 candidates that had signed that letter, then I think we all had the respect to know who had decided to withdraw, because everyone has the right to make their own decision. That decision was not made by me, and I believe I have 2 other candidates here that the decision was not made by them. And for the record, we do have a letter with our signatures on it that still are saying we would like to waive it. And again, if we're going to give everyone the respect that they decided to change their mind, then I ask this committee to give me the same respect of not changing my mind. And I also have the letter with the 3 of us who had decided, or we never changed our minds.
Point of order, Mr. President.
Point of order, Councilor Del Russo.
I think this is bordering on electioneering, and I just caution the body.
Mrs. Cunha, the matter has been disposed of.
And again, I just want to be on record because it was assumed that I was part, and the other 2 members of the candidates that were running were part of that decision. We were not the part of that decision. It had never been discussed with us. It had only been discussed to waive the primary. So as I know, with all due respect, I understand that you've made your decisions, but I also wanted very clear and on record that I was not for a primary.
Thank you.
Mr. President?
Councilor Knight.
The issue of a primary election's been something that's been heard in rumblings and rumors around the city as to whether or not we should have it, whether or not there are going to be enough candidates to have it, so on and so forth. And the idea of waiving the primary, it can make sense. It makes sense. It certainly makes sense to save money, but then we also have to think philosophically about the way government works. We have to think a little bit more about what dictates why a primary election is supposed to occur. I, for one, came forward and stood with several of my colleagues against a home rule petition to change our charter. I stood with my colleagues and I said, I think that this is something that the voters should address. Right now, we have a charter that dictates the way our election should work. If we're gonna change that document, that document should be done as a way, done by the initiative petition process and should be done from the ground up based upon the will of the voters. So I'd have a very difficult time this evening supporting a paper that would waive the requirements of a primary election because the primary election is dictated and outlined in the charter of our community, the document, the blueprint, the constitution of how we're supposed to run our government. So I'd have a very difficult time waiving the primary. I guess it's a moot point at this point because Councilor Carviallo has withdrawn the paper and there's no paper that's before the council this evening addressing that issue. However, I can certainly see the benefits of it and the financial aspect to it. However, the question comes as to what's more important, process or the funds? And I would have a very difficult time if this paper was still on the ground today to vote to waive the primary election, Mr. President.
Thank you. Name and address of the record, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Robert Capucci, 71 Evans Street. I was one of several candidates who reconsidered this letter that we signed on Friday during the day of the lottery. A letter that was just hastily written. It wasn't notarized. It wasn't written under perjury or penalty going back on it. And considering the costs, I mean, I've been coming to these city council meetings for 10 years, and I've been asking for costs to be redirected, and these are monies that are going to be allocated and spent elsewhere, whether it's on the primary or not. The money essentially is already gone. Essentially, it's already gone. I wasn't the only candidate who reconsidered. I don't want it to be presented tonight that just one person, because we did.
I was only notified by one person.
Right. But
I don't know who else
right,
is bowed up.
And here we are tonight notifying you, Mr. President. After discussion from some of the candidates, it wasn't hidden from other people who signed. It was presented that way. But with all due respect, the prior speaker was texted on Saturday and informed that.
I don't know.
Right. I'm just saying it in full disclosure because I don't want it to be portrayed or perceived that anything was covertly done. In considering not having a primary, I mean, the weight of denying citizens an election is something, you know, something that weighed heavy on my mind. So I thought about it and I reconsidered. Speaking for myself, I am not obligated to have to disclose reasons why I reconsidered, or two people. I'm 47 years old, I'm an adult, I can make my own decisions. I reconsidered based on discussion with a sitting council member, as a matter of fact, and I won't mention any names. I'll just say that it made better sense and it was better judgment and it was better part of the democratic process to have an election and let the voters decide. And full disclosure, I just up here tonight letting you know that everything was above board. It was a simple thing. I greatly respect you for bringing that home rule petition.
And I think I explained to everybody on Friday about what signing that meant.
Right. And I understand that, but things happen and people change their mind.
People change their mind all the time.
Non-binding.
I'm sure you've had your mind changed as well at times. I don't think we should deny an election to the citizens of Medford in a primary.
And there will be no denying of anybody.
Right.
Thank you.
Mr. President.
Name and address of the record, please.
Ray Scarfo, 9 Sunset Ave. I just want to bring the timeline into everybody that was notified back and forth. So I was the person that brought forward to all the other 7 candidates about not having a primary. With the direction of the Council President, Rick Carviallo, I contacted all of the 7 candidates on the matter. on the cost to eliminate one candidate for a primary election. Because of that thought process, all candidates agreed to sign a statement on Friday, August 11th, to not have a primary. On Saturday, August 12th, President Caraviello called me and said he spoke to one of the new candidates who reconsidered his position, wanting to have a primary. Because of that conversation, President Caraviello told me he was withdrawing the home rule petition to cancel the city council primary. I then proceeded to text all the new candidates about President Caraviello's to withdraw the motion of the home rule petition. On Monday morning, President Caraviello informed me at the coffee shop he was not going to withdraw the motion for the home rule petition. I then proceeded to inform again all 7 candidates that council president changed his mind and not to withdraw the home rule petition. Getting confusing? I asked all candidates if they would be willing to sign a document saying they wish to have a primary and to respond to me as soon as possible. I myself, having given considerable thought and receiving feedback from other candidates, along with some citizens, feel that the citizens have the right to have an election and to follow the process. And as Councilor Knight said, as I remember 2 years ago, there was an issue on a charter review, and certain Councilor Knight, made a statement that the citizens that wanted a charter review should follow the process and not send it to the state legislature. Again, who am I to stop that process on challenging a primary? There were men and women who have served and died to give us that right to a fair election. I had a cousin who died at the Battle of the Bulge, and an uncle who received the Bronze Star and Purple Heart in World War II, and me, who served 7 years in the military. After listening to fellow veterans along with concerned citizens, I don't want to see that right given away and demean their memory. We also discussed the cost of our last primary 2 years ago for City Council to eliminate one candidate. That process of election went forward. This year's cost, would it really be a savings? It would be, just to move that general fund, move the money to the general fund or the free cash account spent elsewhere. It wasn't going to be earmarked for anywhere. They could spend it any way they wanted to. Personally, I would not like to see the primary canceled. I believe in the right to have a fair election that was given to us by the men and women that fought for us. And I do have 4 names signed on a notary. It was notarized.
It's a moot point.
I know it's a moot point.
It's a moot point anyway, so.
I know it's a moot point, but we do have 4 names that did agree to change their mind, and if it need be, I can give it to the council.
We don't need them.
All right.
The matter's been disposed of.
I just wanted to make the record straight.
Thank you.
Mr. President?
Well, yeah.
Yes. Vice President Marks.
Just if I could, Mr. President, because there's been a lot of discussion around this issue. And I can tell you firsthand that, in my opinion, when we talk about conflicts of interest, about having a vested interest in something, and how we as a legislative body should remove ourselves, I have a real problem with elected officials canceling elections. I have a real problem with that. I think that's probably one of the most unethical things that an elected official can do, Mr. President, to be quite honest with you. And to also do it in the name of savings, to me, is just a smokescreen. Because first of all, there is no savings. And secondly, Mr. President, when you look at the budget, and if you want to make a savings, the taxpayers and the ratepayers in this community have been paying for PEG access, which they haven't had for 4 years, hundreds of thousands of dollars. Where's the outcry of that save the ratepayers of Comcast and Verizon this money that the city's been stealing from them, Mr. President? If you want to look at savings, canceling an election is not the way you save an $160 million budget. And in my opinion, Mr. President, where everyone, even non-incumbents and incumbents, have a vested interest in the process, we shouldn't be involved whether or not an election is canceled. And our city charter dictates what should happen. Double the office plus one, you have a primary. Now, we're trying to circumvent the process, no matter how you cut it up. We're trying to circumvent the process of allowing residents in this community to get out and vote. Now, I realize a primary election from previous elections, probably 10 to 12% turnout. And I know that's probably around 4,000 voters. And that is a lower turnout. But how do you say to 4,000 voters, sorry, we don't believe that this primary is important enough? We don't believe your right to get out and vote is important enough. I don't understand that, Mr. President. I really can't fathom that. And, you know, year after year you hear, why are the city turnout so low? You know why? Because of these things, these type of things, Mr. President. When we have low turnout and we want to gather interest in the community, and the quickest way to put a fizzle on that is to do away with elections. Think about it. We're trying to build up elections in this community. This council is asked to promote elections by putting banners out and A-frame signs and other social media to get elections out. And here we are saying, that's cancel the election. It just doesn't make any sense to me, Mr. President. It's not a savings. That's a red herring. This is all about, Mr. President, about affording the right to people in this community to get out and vote. And even if it's just one person that wants to get out, Mr. President, I'm gonna support their right to get out and vote.
There is no motion on the floor, Mr.
I
Vice
know there's
President.
not, but there's been a lot of discussion around this, and I wanna let people know where I stand on this, Mr. President.
Thank you. Name and address of the record, please.
Anne Marie Cunyo, 871 Fells Way. I came here a little while ago and I stated what I stated. I am not saying that we shouldn't have an election, and I am not saying that we do not. Everyone has the right and deserves the right for an election. What I had said is that when we were together on Friday, that was the discussion that we had had. And I know that other people have come up here and said that they've spoken to other people and they've spoken to all of us, and that's fine. I, on the record, have not received a text message. I have my phone with me. I didn't receive a text message. The only reason I was coming up was just to make it very clear that the discussion that happened between Friday and I guess Sunday, when you were all at the coffee shop, is that I was not part of it, and I believe that there were two other members that were really weren't part of it. But that is for them to say. I am not trying to eliminate the due process. I am not trying to take anyone's rights away. I'm just trying to be, you know, it's funny. People say we have to be transparent. I'm just saying I was not informed of it. So I did not want other people to make a decision for me. That was
Point of
it.
information, Vice President Marks.
Informed of what?
There was nothing to be informed of.
But I don't know, everybody else is saying that they've
There
texted and
was-
spoke
again,
to everybody. I'm
that
just
was-
going
that
by
was a-
what people
Yeah,
said.
come on, move the paper, come on.
Point of order, Mr. President.
Crazy.
Point of order, Mr. President.
Yeah, there's nothing to be informed of because there was nothing official. So again, that was an agreement amongst the 8 candidates. So it had nothing to do with the city of Medford.
You're absolutely right, but there were other people up here that said
Mr.
that I
President,
didn't
point of
receive
parliamentary
things.
procedure.
Councilor Knight.
I'd like to make a call for the orders of the day, Mr. President. The discussion that's being held before us is attached to a paper that's been disposed of already by the
The
council.
paper has been
If
disposed
we're
of.
gonna continue this discussion, we can do it during the public
And there'll be-
participation
there'll-
decision of the meeting, but we do have some agenda items.
Yes, we have the-
Move the revert.
Move the revert back to order.
One more person.
Oh, sorry.
And I didn't speak at all, someone else spoke twice.
You're allowed to do that.
Hi, Cheryl Rodriguez, 281 Park Street. Apparently the game is afoot, but I hope that this is the last thing that we're gonna have.
The motion has been disposed of, so there is no other discussion on
No,
it.
not on this side of the table. But,
That's you.
Let her finish, let her just, please.
it'll be faster, yeah. if you let- But I just want to say that when I was approached about not holding a primary and then about holding a primary, I insisted that all candidates be notified. I wasn't notified about a paper that was signed for people coming here tonight that didn't want to have a primary. So I just caution everyone that all the candidates, we should be working together because theoretically we all want what's best for the city. So I hope that there isn't any backroom deals.
Mr. President,
When I was approached by candidates, I did speak to them
Point of information?
about what
Point of
was going on.
information, Councilor Knight.
For the record, do you want to waive the primary?
I didn't have strong feelings about it either way.
Oh, because I'm looking at the letter and your name's on it, and I just wanted to figure if that was, okay. All right, that was all, Mr. President, thank you.
So I thought that everybody put forth solid arguments about it, and
Again, that was
we're gonna have a
an
primary, so
agreement
that's
amongst
fine.
your 8 candidates.
Exactly.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. President, a motion to revert back to the regular.
Motion by Councilor Knight to revert back to regular business. All those in favor?
He's been waiting, Mr. President. Let him speak. We got it this far.
Name and address for the record, please.
Andrew Paul Castanetti, 23 Cushion Street, Medford, Massachusetts. My phone number is 781-396-TIPS, T-I-P-S. If I may try to put this in proper perspective for if there's ever a viewing public of this meeting in the future. I believe the formula is, because it is confusing.
This meeting is being taped live, is live.
It's live.
It's on television right now.
Okay, thank you. Excuse my appearance, I had a bad injury at the bike path that doesn't exist in the Mystic River. Anyways, the formula for a primary, I believe, is 7 positions for the city council, which you all hold. Times 2 is 14, add 1 is 15. If there's 15 or more candidates running, and there are, it, I believe, triggers a primary according to the city ordinance or
Yes.
charter. Is that accurate?
That
Thank
is
you.
correct.
Thank you, sir. So, when Mr. City Clerk Finn had the drawing for the post positions, I did sign as a council candidate for this election a so-called document. I believe all 8 of us signed it, of the challenges, I should say. And that's the only document I ever signed to that nature. And the document was stating, I believe, to let's waive the primary and save the taxpayers $30,000, $45,000. I hear sometimes $70,000. I don't know what the actual figure is. So I said, sure, makes sense to me, common sense, that why spend $30,000 to $45,000 to eliminate 1 out of the 15? And God forbid someone gets eliminated, if there is a primary, that person's not going to feel very happy, I presume. It seems like a lot of big chunk of cash to eliminate 1 person. However, if you put it in perspective, as Councilor Marks was alluding to, $45,000, when this city spent, first of all, they collected from our pockets, the taxpayers, $1 billion, over $1 billion, not including the bonds they borrowed and extended our debt, the public debt. And put in real perspective, I believe the $45,000 is 0.02% of this year's $167 million budget. Furthermore, bottom line, this might be the best $45,000 this city has ever spent in 55 years. It's going to open up some conversation, I would think.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm not finished. And maybe we can get some leadership that can improve our situation in the city and lower our real estate taxes, et cetera, and improve the quality of life. So, frankly, Charlotte, have the primary, don't have the primary, it might be a good thing to spend that $45,000 after all.
Thank you.
You're quite welcome, sir.
Okay.
Motion to revert back to regular business.
Yes.
17599, offered by Councilor Longo Kern, be it resolved that the Energy Environment Office provide the Medford City Council with an update on test borings behind the Andrews School and Clippershire Park. Councilor Longo Kern.
Thank you, President Carviello. Just wanted to reach out and hopefully get a written response from Energy and Environment, Ms. Hunt. I know she was working hard on this project, and it was unfortunate what was discovered on Clippership Park. We also, as a council, asked that there be test pourings done at the Andrews School. So I want to make sure, that's one of my 2 reasons. Obviously, we want an update, but I want to make sure that those test pourings were done behind the Andrews School, where hundreds of children play during school hours, and play soccer on the weekends, and I just want to make sure that that soil is not contaminated. So I move approval on this and ask for a written response.
Councilor Knight.
Mr. President, I think this is a good resolution, and I second the recommendation. Ultimately, we just this morning, I should say this morning, it feels like this morning, but a little earlier in the evening, we had a presentation by the Massachusetts Area Planning Council and our Office of Community Development concerning the master plan for Medford Square. And that plan focused a lot on the Clipper Ship Connector. So I think it's very important moving forward, since we have this draft plan for the Medford Square that they're looking at, that we understand what's going on over there environmentally on the Clipper Ship Connector, because that seemed to be a major part of connectivity between the square and other parts of the city.
Thank you. On the motion by Councilor Longo-Kern, seconded by Councilor Knight. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. 17-600, offered by Councilor Knight. Be it resolved that the DPW repaired the pothole in front of 12 Golden Avenue. Councilor Knight.
Thank you, Steve Tenaglia, Brian Cairns, and the members of the Medford DPW. I placed a phone call and put this matter on the resolution, on the council agenda, but because we're meeting sporadically over the summer, the issue was taken care of in 24 hours. So with that being said, Mr. President, I withdraw the motion, the resolution, and I thank the DPW for their prompt and quick response.
Motion by Councilor Knight to withdraw, 17-600. 17-601, offered by Councilor Longo-Kern. Be it resolved that the final fiscal year 18 budget be posted online in detail, and that any candidate for office be allowed to review and receive such a copy of such. Councilor Longo-Kern.
Thank you, President Carviello. I learned about a week ago that there was a candidate for office who couldn't get the budget book for fiscal year 2018, which was passed and approved the end of June, and I was surprised. So I just want to make sure that any candidate, anybody, any person who lives in the city who wants to review the budget can do so online, or go to the city clerk's office and read a hard copy. And any candidate should be able to, or the mayor's office, wherever that may be, to be able to review the budget in detail. I think it's essential to transparency, obviously, but it's just essential to know what is in that budget, where the money's spent. It's like we just spoke about, $160+ million budget, and I really feel that every candidate and resident in this city should have access to it.
Thank you.
Mr. President, I'm under the impression that
Councilor Dela Russo.
I'm under the impression that it is posted, and that there are especially the devotees of the budget process, the citizen participants who are often there year after year to participate in the budget, receive one.
There is a hard copy available now, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, we got a hard copy
I
this
don't know
week.
when it was made available. Councilor Knight.
I do believe, Mr. President, the public records law would dictate the provision of public documents to individuals in the community. That's the state law. I find it nonsensical for the council to think that they can move forward and put more stringent requirements on something that's already been established by a higher governmental jurisdiction.
If I may, through the chair, I believe
Councilor Longo-Kern.
the detailed budget that we were given in June with specific information, very detailed information, not all of that is online. I feel like that should be open to the public.
Name and address for the record, please.
David McKillop, 94 Rock Glen Road. I do want to speak on this point because I was the one who was actually trying to get my hands on a budget. I did go in 2 consecutive weeks in a row to try and get my hands on a budget towards the end of July, and was met with a little confusion as to why it wasn't available throughout the actual city hall itself. I know that the city clerk tried really hard to try and figure out how I could get my hands on one. The city assessor did put a little effort into it and was reverted back to the mayor's office to find a copy not available. I did ask if I could get it online. I was met with the young lady that actually tried to help me with, I don't know anything about that. All I know is that the budget is out to print. Now, in my impression, you want to talk about transparency. If you have passed a budget and that budget is enacted the first week of July, every single citizen, not just candidates, every single citizen should be able to get it at any point immediately, because if you're working with a budget and that budget is operating, that means it should be in our hands, period. That is not transparency. That is not what this administration is showing in the regards of one of the most simplest documents for that reason. So I strongly suggest that this time next year, when a budget is being presented and passed, it is ready to go July 1st, because everyone should have it in their hands. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President?
Council Falco.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I feel that the budget, what we do in passing the budget or reviewing the budget is one of our biggest responsibilities, and transparency is key when it comes to the budget. Everyone should be have access to the budget. I've always felt that way. I think especially when you think about it, there's so much money and everything that runs through the budget. And, we should be encouraging people to get involved with the budget process and actually taking a look at the budget. And, one of the biggest, to me, a big initiative that we passed this year, and everyone stood behind, was the legislative software. It was a motion that I brought forward in the spring. And this council stood before it, and it's in the budget. And that is actually to make sure that the materials that we receive with legislative software, all those materials should be in that software package, so everything we get, you'll be able to see in the general public. And it's all public information, but it's going to be easily accessible with legislative software. We have that's passed, that's in the budget. It hasn't gone live yet, but to me, in my opinion, the budget, or the draft budget at least, should be it should be actually online for people to look at. So if they come to the meeting, they can be, they can look at it in advance and say, okay, this is how much we're spending here. They can ask good questions. They can be prepared at meetings. And it also, it helps us prepare ourselves too, when all this stuff is at our fingertips. So, I've always been a big fan of making sure that, the budget, it's transparent, people can see it, and people can access it. So, I just wanted to go and just give my thoughts on this process. So, thank you.
Move approval.
On the motion by Councilor Longo Kern, seconded by Councilor Falco. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. 17602, offered by Councilor Longo Kern, be it resolved that a state delegation be contacted to reach out to MassDOT in regards to the way they are handling the Craddock Bridge cleanup and the lack of handicap accessibility. Councilor Longo Kern.
Thank you, President Carviello. We haven't met in a few weeks, so last week I received a number of complaints with regards to the cleanup and the splash of almost cement on the business owner's facade, and a number of issues with regards to potential handicap accessibility issues down in that area, and it's very concerning. I did reach out to the mayor's office. I know a number of us have been making calls and trying to get in touch with MassDOT. I know people have been calling Representative Donato, but as a councilor, I'd like to take a vote that we ask that this cleanup be done in a better way. At the end of the night, a restaurant or whatever businesses are down there, they should be able to operate with a clean, friendly environment where a wheelchair can pass through, or a mother with a stroller to get into a restaurant. And from the pictures I've saw, I'm extremely concerned. I know that, unfortunately, really nobody from the administration has been down there often. Thankfully, our new Commission for Persons with our new diversity director did go down this week. I'm not sure he found anything not in compliance, but there was a few days last week where I saw the ruler to the door, and it just very concerning. So I would ask that we, as a body, take a roll call vote to ask our state delegation to get involved.
If I can interject,
Yes.
I have spoken with Representative Leader Donato, and he is in the process of arranging a meeting with the state delegation.
Great.
So,
Great.
if you want to send them an official letter, but he was notified, and he is in the process of doing that.
If we could just vote to support his endeavors in trying to help that location.
On the motion by Councilor Longo Kern, seconded by Councilor Scarpelli. Councilor Knight.
Mr. President, I too got the same phone calls that the councilor refers to, and I've had conversations with the project manager, Mike Winnick, as well as Dan Fields, the DOT contact and liaison, and it's been brought to my attention that probably the start of September, All the work's gonna transfer to the other side of the bridge.
Oh, thank goodness.
All the public utilities are gonna be able to be moved. That was the side of the bridge that had the most significant amount of public utilities underneath it. That was the side of the bridge that was gonna be posing the most trouble and complications during their, what seems like once-in-a-while construction that they do. And come September 1st, it was my understanding that they would be moving to the other side of the street, and all the work done in front of Carol's Restaurant and the Zamparelli Building and so forth would be complete.
So it looks like the sidewalks are pretty much all done. I think they're all poured today, or the last couple of days.
Mr. President, but if I may, I think that maybe in terms of the direction we're going and calling the state delegation and telling them to do something, why don't we have the state delegation tell us what they're doing and see if that's something we want to support? So maybe it might be nice for us to have a conversation with the representative, and the representative share with us what efforts that they're taking to see if that satisfies us, as opposed to sending a letter.
He is in the
out to our
process
entire
of
delegation.
setting up a meeting with the delegation, and he said he would have an answer to me probably in the next week or so.
So maybe,
And we'll get a meeting date set.
Why don't we just ask to be invited to the meeting that he's setting up?
We will, well, the meeting is, we will be at that meeting. Vice President Marks.
Thank you, Mr. President. The meeting was a meeting that this council voted on and requested. And it was my resolution to ask that the state delegation be present.
Yes.
And also that the primary conversation be surrounded by not really what's taking place over there, but mitigation.
I informed the representative of that.
Right. Mitigation and the impact it's had financially on these businesses. I realize the area's in disarray, and some of those businesses have been going through this for 2 years now. But what is the state going to do regarding the business loss? You can't bring, when it's lost business, you can't bring it back. And in my opinion, Mr. President, the state needs to step forward, and we as a city need to step forward on behalf of our businesses that have been impacted by this. That's a state bridge.
Yes.
It's in the city of Medford, but it's a state bridge. We hear all too often, oh, we can't do this on a state road, or we can't do anything regarding tree trimming, or sidewalk repair, or street repair on state roads. Now we have a state bridge, Mr. President, and we have no say in what's going on in a bridge in the heart of our city, which makes absolutely no sense to me at all. But that meeting that we have is to discuss mitigation.
That is correct. That is what I told
Discuss
you.
how we're gonna make these businesses that have been impacted financially for the last 2 years whole again, Mr. President.
You are 100% correct. And that is when I had an official meeting with them, I did tell him that your motion was for mitigation, and he understood that. So, on the motion by Councilor Longo Kern, seconded by Councilor Marks. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
17-603.
Motion passes. 17-603, offered by Councilor Knight, be it resolved that the Medford City Council congratulate Amanda and Patrick Collins on the birth of their first child, Ella McKenna Collins.
Mr. President.
Councilor Knight.
Mr. President, thank you very much, and a lot can happen in 18 months as the corner office transitions to a new administration. We saw former Mayor McGlynn reach his 50th wedding anniversary, and we also have seen him bring his daughter bring another grandchild into the world for him. So I'd like to take a moment to congratulate Amanda and Patrick on the birth of their first child. They've just purchased their first home as well, and I think it's a great momentous occasion to see a family that's 5 generations in Medford continuing to stay in the family and hopefully have a 6th. So with that being said, I just hope my council colleagues would join me in congratulating Amanda McGlynn Collins and Patrick Collins on the birth of their first child, Ella McKenna Collins.
On the motion by Councilor Knight, seconded by Councilor Delarusso. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. 17-604, be it resolved that the Medford City Council extend its deep and sincere congratulations to Patricia and David Downey on the momentous occasion of their 50th wedding anniversary. Councilor Knight.
Mr. President, thank you very much. If anybody remembers their time at the Brooks Hobbs School or at Medford High School, they'll remember Mrs. Downey standing in the front door saying, "How can I help you, lovey?" and she did that for a good 35 years. And it's her son David is my closest friend. I met him the first day of school in kindergarten at the Brook School, and we keep in touch today, even though he's moved overseas across the country about 20 years ago. But with that being said, it's with great happiness and great pride that I stand here today, and I congratulate my friends Pat and David Downey on the momentous occasion of their 50th wedding anniversary, especially on this night, because this is a very night this night's very special to me. So with that being said, I'd ask my council colleagues to join me in wishing Mr. and Mrs. Downey a very happy 50th wedding anniversary, and wishing them another 50 more.
On the motion by Councilor Knight, seconded by Councilor Scarpelli. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Motion passes. Petitions, presentations, similar matters. 17607, petition by Andrew P. Cassidy, 23 Cushion Street, Medford, to address the council on new growth and real estate taxes. Mr. Castagnetti.
Thank you, Council President. Part of my appearance, I had a bicycle injury on the Mystic River last Wednesday, right where the clipper ship connector path is supposed to be. Unfortunately, it's not there. There's a couple of sinkholes, and I got...
Not quite a path yet.
Boring.
Yeah, I noticed. I've been through 1,000 times. I got distracted, and it cost me dearly. Head injuries and broken bones. If I had some power in this, I would be the first on the agenda. I would take care of his public safety, not just there. Mystic Avenue, cars that should not be parked there when 5 lanes
We're
becomes
talking about
2
new growth,
lanes.
Mr. Cassidy.
Yes, we are. In a nutshell, Andrew Castanetti, 23 Cushion Street, 781-396, TIPS, T-I-P-S. This new growth, we've had this for many, many years, probably every year since pre my birth. However, I don't understand why that we don't use this new growth, which basically is real estate tax that never existed before from a development. Why don't they use that new growth to offset Prop 2.5 increases? Directly, it should be directly applied to Prop 2.5 increases. I don't understand why. 2 years ago, I did the math. My real estate tax bill went up $400. If they apply the $1.5 million of new growth, brand new real estate taxes against the 2.5%, which was $2.5 million, it would have went up $80 instead of $400. And this has been going on since before I was born. Basically, I believe this new growth, it should not be encouraged the way it is. I'm for smart growth, great economic growth. However, if you don't use that new real estate tax to offset Prop 2.5 increases, not only does it hurt us, it hurts us fivefold. First of all, you need more fire, police, school teachers, buildings, vehicles, and infrastructure improvements. Doesn't make sense to me. I'm asking if you could formally ask the mayor for an answer, a formal answer, because I've tried on my own with the head of the city assessor's office, and I have not received a straight answer, although I was told he would mail me something. That was 3 months ago. I understand I'm not tech savvy. Snail mail can take time, but it's been 3 months. Could you please, can one counselor make a formal request to ask the mayor, why aren't we using new growth to offset Prop 2.5 increases?
Sure. We'll ask them.
Please.
Yep.
Thank you. Who will make that? Thank you very much.
Move approval.
Motion to receive and place on file?
And we're gonna ask the mayor's
Ask the mayor that question.
You wanna make a? we did-
formal request of the mayor.
A motion by Councilor Longo Kern to request,
You can take an individual vote if you want.
amendment. Amended by Councilor Longo Kern that the mayor give an answer why the new growth money is not applied to the taxes. Is that correct, Mr. Cassidy?
Yes, sir.
To the 2.5 taxes.
To directly offset any proposed Prop 2.5 increase.
Thank you.
in planning.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Move approval.
On the motion by Councilor Longo Kern. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. 17-609, communications from the mayor. Dear Mr. President, City Council, I respectfully request and recommend that your honorable body consider the attached resolution in support of House Bill 2683 and Senate Bill 1845. Unrepaired gas leaks not only emit dangerous gases into the air we breathe, but the cost of this lost gas, is passed on to the consumer. Please support this measure on behalf of the citizens of Medford. And
Citizens.
I think we discussed this in substance earlier.
We did?
It's a little different.
It's a little different than what this is actually asks the gas and electric company to not charge us for the energy used.
Mr. President?
Councilor Knight.
I'd like to amend the paper to be added as a co-sponsor.
And if you could add, Mr. Clerk,
Make me
if
be
you
the
could
one that
add,
has to read it?
I'm sorry?
Does that make me be the one that has to read it, though? It's a long
Do you
one.
want me to read it? Or do you want to waive the reading?
I think we can waive the reading and
Waive the
give a
reading.
brief synopsis.
Synopsis.
And would you please add Councilor Knight as a co-sponsor? To the bill that the mayor has proposed.
We all add it.
The resolution.
We all can
Resolution
be
that mayor proposed.
co-sponsors.
Why don't you add the whole city council?
Yeah, add the whole city council.
Add the whole city council.
We're all co-sponsors.
On the motion to.
You get the whole
Yes.
council to do it,
Yeah. The whole council supports it. She's asking for the whole council support. So the whole council hopefully will support it.
So
Councilor, Vice President Marks.
I think this is worthy, although I'll be quite frank with you, I haven't read both bills. But my only question I had was regarding if we're gonna require them not to charge the homeowner, which I think is a novel concept. And I assume that would require them to then, on their end, start fixing these leaks. Ultimately, who's gonna end up paying for this? And I'd like to hear from someone, stating, I don't know, maybe Mr. Tootin can answer that, but ultimately, I would assume they're gonna pass that off to
Consumer.
their consumer.
You are correct.
So we pay one way or another.
Right, so secondly, Mr. President, and it's good, we have level 3 leaks, which they don't even look at level 3 leaks. They only look at level 1 and 2 leaks in our community. I would also ask, Mr. President, an issue that I've been talking about for years, the mayor supports looking at unaccounted for gas and making a savings to the gas payers, so they're not paying for that. And I would ask the mayor respectfully, why doesn't she look at unaccounted for water, which every single ratepayer in this community has been paying through the nose for years? It's roughly 20%. It's millions of dollars, Mr. President, of unaccounted for water that we're all paying for. So I realize the mayor is hip on this and wants to see the people have a savings. I would hope she'd also like to see the people have a savings on unaccounted for water, which has been a real major concern for many, many years in this community, costing the ratepayers millions of dollars, Mr. President. So I'd like for that to accompany this paper and asking her what her thoughts are on unaccounted for water, because there's ways as a community, we have over $7 million in the water and sewer enterprise account that we can address unaccounted for water. So there are ways, Mr. President, that we can also look out for the ratepayer in this community regarding water.
Thank you. As amended? Paper, you want
Motion
amendment to it?
7.
Yeah. On the motion that we, as amended by Councilor Marks.
Motion to sever.
Motion by Councilor Knight to sever the paper. We'll vote on the first paper. All those in favor of the mayor's resolution on the first one,
As co-sponsored by the city council.
as co-sponsored by Councilor Knight, all those in favor?
Roll call vote.
Roll call vote has been requested.
It's for Marx's.
Councilor Delarusso.
Yes.
Councilor Falco.
Yes.
Councilor Knight.
Yes.
Councilor Curran.
Yes.
Vice President Marks.
Yes.
Councilor Scarpelli.
Yes.
President Caviola.
Yes, 7 in the affirmative, none in the negative, motion passes. On the second paper by Councilor Marks, that the mayor look into.
The administration look into.
The administration look into.
The unaccounted for water.
Unaccounted for
So
water.
we can save the water ratepayers.
And we can save the
money as
ratepayers'
well,
money
Mr.
also.
President.
Point of information, Mr.
Point of
President.
information, Councilor Delarusso.
Have we not sent a similar resolution
To the mayor's office in the past 6 months of that.
I cannot recall.
Send it again.
Mr. Council.
Send it again.
We may have, we may not have, but we can send it again.
Thank you.
Roll call vote has been requested. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Get delirious after 10.
Councilor Delarusso.
Yes.
Councilor Falco.
Yes.
Councilor Knight.
Yes.
Councilor Curran.
Yes.
Vice President Marks.
Yes.
Councilor Scarpelli.
Yes.
President Caviola.
Yes. 7 in the affirmative, none in the negative, motion passes. Unfinished business.
Motion to take a paper off the tables, Mr. President.
Motion by Councilor Delarusso to take the paper off the table.
17,581.
17,581,
Your
loan
Honor.
order, for $2,075,000 in water system improvements. This is its third reading this evening.
Bless you.
Mr. Clerk, could you please call the roll on the third reading of this?
Is the
loan
paper
order?
before us? It is.
The paper is before us.
Motion to take third reading.
Motion for the third reading by Councilor Delarusso.
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Knight.
Councilor Delarusso.
Affirmative.
Councilor Falco.
Yes.
Councilor Knight.
Yes.
Councilor Curran.
Yes.
Vice President Marks.
Yes.
Councilor Scarpelli.
Yes.
President Caviola.
Yes, 7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. Paper takes its third reading. Under suspension, 17,612. Offered by Councilor Knight, be it resolved that the Medford City Council extended Stevens and sincere condolences to the family of Annette Michella on her recent passing. Councilor Knight.
Mr. President, thank you very much. It's with deep sadness that I put this resolution forward. Annette was waked last evening and was given her burial today. She's a good friend. Her son John and I grew up together. Her son Tommy and I grew up together. And very sad to see her go. She struggled for a very long time with multiple sclerosis and was also bravely battling cancer towards the end. And the illness got the better of her body, but didn't get the betterment of her heart and soul, Mr. President, through the whole time that she was ill. She was a constant fighter, and it's just a tragic, tragic situation to see it happen. I want to just offer my deep and sincere condolences to the family. You know, for those of us that remember Annette, we'd always see her down in Mario's Classic Mirror, working down there for Mario, or over at the liquor store, clerking at the liquor store on Mr. Gab. So, you know, she's a face that's been in the community for a long time. She raised 2 great kids here in the city of Medford, and she's going to be sadly missed, Mr. President.
And she was also an election official.
Yes, she was.
I second that.
If we could please stand for a moment of silence.
Mr. President, just if I could also,
Vice President Marks.
on Annette, Annette was a staple in the Wellington area with her and her sons. As was mentioned, she was always a friendly face at Ward 7, Precinct 2, and she was a terrific mother, friend, and she will be sorely missed.
Thank you.
Mr. President, we're under suspension. Paper 17575 off the table, please.
17, hold on a second. One, 7, what was that?
Community Preservation Act Home Rule Petition.
17575. Councilor Knight.
Motion to receive and place on file.
No, but the petitioner's not here.
The petitioner is not here, Councilor Knight.
I'd say that the paper's out of order, Mr. President. It's not really a petition because it's not a use of the petition process. It's really something that should be referred to public participation.
You are correct.
Move the question.
Let it,
What is the question? What do you want to move?
Receive and place on file.
Receive and place on file? On the motion by Councilor Knight to
Mr.
receive.
President,
Yes.
if I could, Mr. President, the petitioner was here at our last meeting in July. The hour grew late.
That's correct.
He asked that it respectfully be laid on the table. The petitioner had a death in his family, Mr. President, and he would respectfully ask that it continue to be laid on the table, Mr. President, so he can come up and speak on it.
Thank you.
And like I said, Mr. President, it's more of a procedural issue than anything else. It feels though it's something that should be done in the public participation process of the meeting. That's not something that can be, that's something that can be filed at the beginning of the next meeting and be put on, or the next meeting. It doesn't have to be something that sits on the table for, you know, an entire period.
Again, like I said, yeah, it did go to the last meeting at a very late hour, and they did ask that we
So
hold it over to the next meeting.
I just have a little bit of a concern, Mr. President, about the way that the petition process is being used and not necessarily maybe in the right way or in the right frame. I think the petition process is starting to become overly politicized, and a lot of these items that are being brought up through petitions should really be done during the
Well,
public participation process.
where it is already on
Aptly
the,
demonstrated this evening.
where it is already on the agenda, I feel that we should just keep it there.
I withdraw my motion, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Apparently don't have the support.
Okay, we have one last one, offered by Councilor Scarpelli. Be it resolved that the City Council congratulate Mr. and Mrs. Adam Knight on celebrating their 8th wedding anniversary. Councilor Scarpelli.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. I know Adam prides himself on wishing everybody every luck in the world, so I know that the person that deserves it more than anyone is
My wife.
Is his wife, and so we just congratulate them in making 8 years. I said 9, but he corrected me. But rumor has it might be 9 now. You better ask your wife. But thank you.
20 years over, 20 years altogether.
And thank you, and then I'll pat my own wife in the back. Next week will be 41 years for me.
Wow, congrats.
Imagine how lucky my wife is.
Yeah.
Does she know?
Congratulations to my wife.
Does she know?
The records.
Mr. President, I moved to table the records of last week.
The records were passed, they were passed at Council Knight, will be tabled to the next meeting. Motion to adjourn by Councilor Knight. Seconded by Councilor Scarpelli. All in favor, aye. Motion passes.
Cuando te pongan a prueba, no te rindas. Arranca solo después de oír el clic del cinturón, porque cada 8 minutos un pasajero de 8 a 14 años resulta lastimado en un choque.
Well, Thomas, you've got prediabetes. But with more exercise and a change in diet, it can be reversed.
I've tried exercising. It just makes me hungry for bacon.
I love bacon, too. And who really likes to exercise?
Not me.
Me neither.
Nobody. So we're good?
What? Oh, you still have prediabetes. Big time. Marie, you have prediabetes.
Prediabetes? I don't have time to eat right or exercise. I'm a busy mom.
Oh, you're a busy mom.
Yeah.
This is great news. Busy moms never get prediabetes.
Wait, what?
Let me just... Yeah, this is all the people at risk for prediabetes, and way over here, busy moms. No?